Chapter 1548. Chapter 1548. Tribulation Crossing Golden Pill. Senior, you're being too serious. I'm just an initial phase 9th grade sovereign, and I didn't play much of a role. Ningyu immediately stood up and cupped his fists towards the old man. Ningyu knew his own limits. The reason why the Flower Palace could resolve the crisis was mainly because of Fairy Yun Shi and the rest. Although he had played a role in connecting the dots, it was impossible to resolve the crisis without Fairy Yun Shi and the other pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns. Haha, I'm not being too serious. The old man grinned and said, I remember that the palace master of the Flower Palace promised you that so long as you're able to help him deal with that expert at the Devil Spirit Realm, he'll allow you to choose a few things from the treasure pavilion of the Flower Palace. That was a joke in the past. Don't take it seriously. Ningyu briefly hesitated before he continued. Furthermore, I have enmity with the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan of the Thousand Leaves Empire. Part of the reason why they joined forces to attack the giant shield city was because of me. The reason why the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan sent heavenly sovereigns to the giant shield city was most likely because of what happened in the Nebula Academy. At that time, Ningyu had single-handedly made the Emperor Divine Palace and the Jin family suffer heavy losses and lose face. With the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan style, they definitely wouldn't ignore this enmity. So one could imagine that they couldn't kill him today and obtain the Tower of Ascension. In the near future, they would definitely send someone to kill him again. The Flower Palace will take care of the enmity between you and the Emperor Palace and the Jin clan. The old man waved his hand and spoke in a clear voice. I'll immediately spread the news that from now onward, you're the head guest elder of our Flower Palace. Anyone who dares to touch you is equivalent to declaring war against our Emperor Palace. Ningyu was the main contributor to the Flower Palace's crisis, so the old man had to put on an act. Even if he couldn't help Ningyu in the future, he had to put on an act at this moment. Our Flower Palace will definitely accomplish what we've promised. The old man stared at Ningyu and continued. The Flower Palace suffered such a calamity, causing it to suffer heavy losses in magic treasures and medicinal pills. Now, only the 100-flower fan remains in its possession. As he spoke, the old man flicked his sleeve and threw the 100-flowers fan at Ningyu. But Ningyu's eyes shone with an astonishing light, and he hastily held the 100-flower fan in his hand. At the same time, Ningyu looked at the old man in disbelief. Strictly speaking, the 100-flower fan might not be as strong as the Tower of Ascension, but in the Sky Demon domain, it was still one of the top magic treasures. Ningyu had thought that the old man would casually give him a few treasures and send him away. Who would have thought that the old man would actually hand over such a heaven-defying magic weapon like the 100-flower fan to him? Senior, the 100-flower fan is too precious. Before he figured out what the old man was up to, Ningyu did not want the 100-flower fan. Ningyu had seen a lot in his previous life about killing the donkey when it was no longer of any use. If the old man gave him the 100-flower fan on the surface, but secretly sent someone to kill him, it would not be worth it. If you don't want the 100-flower fan, you're looking down on me. The old man interrupted Ningyu's words, and his face instantly turned cold. He said in a deep voice, if it wasn't for you, the Flower Palace would have fallen a long time ago, and I might not have made it out alive. All right. Seeing the old man's expression, Ningyu took a deep breath and kept the 100-flower fan. He still had to build his own force anyway. Although he had no use for the 100-flower fan, it was a good reward for his subordinate. Your Master Xingyun, a peak 9th grade pill refiner. Seeing Ningyu take the 100-flower fan, Xieze looked at Master Xingyun and said, I want to ask you to help me refine a pill. I wonder if it's possible. What pill? Master Xingyun asked. Crossing Disaster Golden Pill. Xieze said. What? Hearing Xieze's words, not only Master Xingyun jumped up, but even Ningyu jumped up. The Crossing Disaster Golden Pill was not an ordinary pill. It could be said that even in his previous life, Ning Yu would find it difficult to refine the crossing disaster golden pill. This was because the crossing disaster golden pill was not a 9th grade pill, but a 10th grade pill. Moreover, it belonged to the top level of 10th grade pills. In his previous life, the strength of Ning Yu's soul force had reached the realm of breaking through the Pill Emperor realm, but he had not broken through the last barrier to advance to the true Pill Emperor realm. Even a true Pill Emperor only had less than a 10% success rate in refining the crossing disaster golden pill. There's no way to refine it? Sigh, forget it. I knew it would be like this. I just wanted to give it a try. Ning Yu and Master Xing Yun's reaction made Xie Zhe sigh. He waved his hand and said, "The crossing disaster golden pill is a 10th grade pill. I don't think even those old fellows in the Alchemy Union can refine it. The crossing disaster golden pill is an elixir that pinnacle heavenly sovereigns need to break through to higher realms. Could it be that Senior wants to break through to the Saint realm?" Ning Yu said with a grave expression. Above the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm was the half-saint realm. Almost every pinnacle heavenly sovereign needed external help when they wanted to break through to the half-saint realm, such as the crossing disaster golden pill. Ning Yu's guess was right. Xie Zhe wanted to use the crossing disaster golden pill to break through to the half-saint realm and extend his lifespan. "Haha, you're smart." Xie Zhe smiled. "I'm just saying. Don't take it to heart." After saying that, Xie Zhe closed his eyes slightly and leaned against the chair, beginning to rest. Seeing Xie Zhe's action, Grandmaster Xing Yun and Fairy Yun, she moved and left the conference hall. Of course, not everyone chose to leave. Ning Yu was the only one that didn't leave. Creak. After Fairy Yun, she and the rest left, the door of the conference hall was slowly pushed open. Rustle. At this moment, Xie Zhe suddenly opened his eyes and appeared in front of Ning Yu in a flash. His eyes shone brightly as he hurriedly said, "Can you really cure the poison in my body?" Ever since he entered the conference hall, Ning Yu had been paying attention to Xie Zhe. In the beginning, Ning Yu couldn't determine the cause of Xie Zhe's injuries. But when Xie Zhe mentioned the crossing disaster golden pill, Ning Yu finally understood. Poison. Xie Zhe must have been poisoned. Although the crossing disaster golden pill could help pinnacle heavenly sovereigns break through to the half-saint realm, not many people knew that it had another effect. It could increase one's lifespan. A single crossing disaster golden pill could extend one's lifespan by 60 years. Xie Zhe had used all his lifespan to resist the poison in his body, which meant that he only had 3 months left to live. Most importantly, Xie Zhe had to pay attention to the goo poison in his body at all times. Once the goo poison broke out, his last 3 months of life might even be halved. Chapter 1549. Chapter 1549. Establishment. I'm sorry, but with my current cultivation and soul force, I can't help you get rid of the poison in your body for the time being. Ning Yu shook his head slowly and said, however, I can think of a way to extend your lifespan. Hearing the first half of Ning Yu's words, Xie Zhe's expression became extremely ugly and even revealed a look of disappointment. But after hearing the second half of Ning Yu's words, Xie Zhe's eyes immediately lit up and he hurriedly said, "To tell you the truth, I only have 3 years left to live. If I can't get rid of the poison in my body within 3 years, it's very likely that the poison in my body will be completely nibbled away. Give me 1 year's time. After 1 year, I will extend your lifespan by 10 years. Since Xie Zhe didn't speak the truth, Ning Yu wouldn't speak the truth either. Xie Zhe only had 3 months left to live, and this was under the best circumstances. Once the poison broke out, Xie Zhe would probably only have a little more than a month left to live. In any case, Ning Yu wasn't in a hurry. If you don't tell me the truth, don't expect me to tell you the truth. Observing from such a close distance, Ning Yu could basically conclude that Xie Zhe wouldn't dare to use force against him. In other words, as long as Xie Zhe dared to use too much energy, the poison in his body would immediately break out, And this was also the reason why Xie didn't kill Mengquan and the others. He wanted to kill them in his heart, but he didn't have the strength to do so. And Ning Yu's words made Xie slightly embarrassed. A hint of determination flashed across his face, and he immediately said in a deep voice, "Ning Yu, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I only have 3 months left to live. If you can think of a way to help me extend my lifespan, then the position of Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace will be yours." "Senior, I don't want to be the Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace because I've already decided to establish my own force." Ning Yu grinned and said, "Become the Palace Master of 100 Flowers Palace?" He was probably going to be a puppet palace master. Being a puppet was not what Ning Yu wanted. In any case, there were many elders of Nebula Academy, Grandmaster Nebula, Bloodthirsty Madwolf Bada, and many other bloodthirsty madwolves hiding outside the city gate. In addition to the Golden Arowana Fish King and 30 to 48th grade Earth Sovereigns, Ning Yu's force would definitely become one of the top forces in the Pill Formation continent. After all, in terms of fighting power, aside from Heavenly Sovereigns, Ning Yu and the rest could sweep through any peak force in the Pellet Formation continent. "You want to establish your own force?" Xie was slightly stunned, and then his eyes spun as he said, "Pill Completion Continent is filled with all sorts of people, and the establishment of any single power will draw the attention of all the other powers. However, with our Flower Palace's protection, I presume no power would be foolish enough to act against all of you. Oh right, do you have a location to establish your force? How about I give Giant Shield City to you? From now on, Giant Shield City will be your headquarters," Xie said again. "Thank you for your kindness, Senior. I've already chosen the location. As for Giant Shield City, you should keep it." Ning Yu was stubborn and unmoved. "I can tell that you're a smart brat." Xie pointed at Ning Yu and continued, "Speak, what do you want?" "Treasures, pellets, crystals, I will definitely give them to you as long as I have them." "I do need Senior's help." Ning Yu smiled. "But it's not treasures, pellets, or crystals. I just want Senior to make a trip with me." "Make a trip with you?" Xie was puzzled. He had no idea what Ning Yu was trying to do. "That's right. How can I not have a top-tiered powerhouse when I want to establish my force?" Ning Yu nodded his head and continued, "There's a rule in the Sky Demon domain. Whenever a supreme force is established, there will be other forces that will come to suppress it. At that time, I hope that Senior can unleash your aura to intimidate those fellows." "Indeed, it's as I have guessed. You're waiting for me here. But let me be frank, I'm currently heavily injured. I can unleash my aura, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to make a move." Although he had promised Ning Yu, Xie didn't want to make a move. His body was poisoned, and every time he made a move, his lifespan would be consumed. Xie didn't want to die so soon after he woke up in the forbidden area of the 100 Flowers Palace. "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Ning Yu was a little excited after hearing Xie's promise. He continued, "On the day I establish my force, I will concoct a pellet with Grandmaster Xing Yun. What we will concoct is a pellet that can extend one's lifespan by 60 years. The Jiazi pellet. You know the recipe for the Jiazi pellet?" Xie's eyes lit up. His face was full of disbelief. The Jiazi pellet could indeed extend one's lifespan by 60 years, but the recipe for the Jiazi pellet had been lost hundreds of years ago. Even in the Sky Demon domain and the Sky Demon domain, it was hard to find someone who knew the recipe for the Jiazi pellet. Ning Yu actually knew the recipe for the Jiazi pellet? How could Xie not be shocked? How could he not be surprised? "I know the recipe for the Jiazi pellet, but you need something very important to concoct it. I'm sure you don't have it." In order to prevent Xie from doing anything out of desperation, Ning Yu had to reveal some useful information to Xie. "What is it?" As expected, Ning Yu's words caught Xie's attention. "Geocentric magma," Ning Yu said solemnly. Geocentric magma? Xieze was stunned at first, but then he understood. There was only one place in the Danqing continent that had geocentric magma. It wasn't a place of great danger, nor was it a forbidden area, nor was it a famous river. It was the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire. All the top forces in the Danqing continent knew that the reason the Jin family could suddenly rise to power and dominate the Thousand Leaves Empire was because of the geocentric magma beneath their home. The center of the geocentric magma was naturally very dangerous. Even Sky Supremes couldn't get close to it. However, the area around the geocentric magma was a holy land for cultivation. Ordinary cultivators could cultivate around the geocentric magma with twice the results with half the effort. You want to attack the Jin family? Suddenly, Xieze seemed to have thought of something and his face turned extremely shocked. After talking for so long, the location that Ningyu chose was the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse, and the Jin family had a heavenly sovereign. How could Ningyu fight with a heavenly sovereign? Jin Bo Jin E come out. Ningyu wanted the full support of the Flower Palace, and not Xieze's one-sided support. Thus, he needed Xieze to see his strength. If that's the case, then he might even be able to compete with the 100 Flower Palace after he established his force. Rustle. When Ningyu's voice landed, two silhouettes flew out of the sovereign of Yu Pagoda and descended in the hall. Jin Bo Jin E. Those two silhouettes were the ancestor of the Jin family, Jin Bo, and the head alchemist of the Jin family, Jin E. But at this moment, the two of them had ferocious expressions on their faces. Chapter 1550. Reaching an Agreement, a Heavenly Supreme and a Pinnacle 9th Grade Alchemist. His perception swept over Jin Bo and Jin E, and Xieze's eyes revealed a serious expression. Ningyu was only a 9th grade human supreme, yet he could bring a heavenly supreme and a pinnacle 9th grade alchemist with him. Could it be that Ningyu wanted to rely on these two to fight against the Jin family of the Thousand Leaves Empire? Xieze didn't believe it. In Xieze's memory, Jin Xinghai of the Jin family was an initial heavenly supreme a long time ago. After so long, if Jin Xinghai didn't die, he would definitely have reached the mid-heavenly supreme. Although the difference between an initial heavenly supreme and a mid-heavenly supreme was only a small level, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. It could be said that even 10 initial heavenly supreme might not be a match for a mid-heavenly supreme. Reality was just that cruel. Thinking of this, Xieze wanted to remind Ningyu. However, before Xieze could say anything, Ningyu took the initiative to introduce them. Pointing at Jin Bo, Ningyu said, "This is the old ancestor of the Jin family, Jin Bo, an initial heavenly supreme." Then, Ningyu pointed at Jin E and said, "Jin E, the chief alchemist of the Jin family. Her soul force has reached the level of liquefying." This, hearing Ningyu's words, Xieze's eyes widened and his mouth was agape. His face was filled with shock. If the Heavenly Supreme and Pinnacle 9th Grade Alchemist were Ningyu's friends, Xieze could still accept it. However, Jin E and Jin Bo were from the Jin family. Xieze couldn't accept it. Ningyu was only a 9th grade human supreme. How could he control two pinnacle experts of the Jin family? "I would like Senior to come with me to hold the line in attacking the Jin family." Ignoring Xieze's shocked expression, Ningyu went straight to the point and said, "When the time comes, the sects that have a good relationship with the Jin family will definitely come to help. Senior, you only need to release a little bit of your aura. Leave the rest to me." "Aren't you afraid that the Jin family has a mid-heavenly supreme?" Jin Xinghai was an early-phase heavenly supreme many years ago, and there's a high chance that he's already a middle-phase heavenly supreme now. Xieze was still a little worried. He only had 3 months left to live. If the Jin family counterattacked, he might die there. Therefore, to be safe, Xieze didn't want to attack the Jin family with Ningyu. "It doesn't matter. Jin Xinghai is nothing to me. Ningyu displayed great confidence. The fact that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu was something that very few people in the entire Pill Formation continent knew about. The Jin family, the Emperor God Palace, and the Rogue Cultivators Alliance had worked together to ban him. The joint efforts of the three powerful forces had sealed off almost all news about this incident. Those who weren't part of the organization wouldn't know that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu. Oh? You have a mid-phase Heavenly Supreme with you? Xieze was a little surprised to see Ningyu's confidence. There were only two reasons why he would be so shocked after hearing that the Jin family had a mid-phase Heavenly Supreme. First, Ningyu was a fool. Second, Ningyu had absolute confidence that he could deal with a mid-phase Heavenly Supreme. Xieze carefully looked at Ningyu. He didn't think that Ningyu was a fool. If that was the case, it meant that Ningyu had absolute confidence in dealing with a mid-phase Heavenly Supreme from the Jin family. I don't have a mid-phase Heavenly Supreme with me, but I'm sure that Jin Xinghai isn't in the Jin family right now. Xieze didn't know that Jin Xinghai was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu, so Ningyu naturally wouldn't tell him. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The moment Xieze coveted his pagoda of Yuzu, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, it was best not to tell Xieze about Jin Xinghai. You're that sure? Xieze was still a little uncertain. After all, this concerned his life and death, so he had to consider it carefully. Ningyu knew what Xieze was worried about, but he couldn't tell Jin Xinghai that he was trapped in the pagoda of Yuzu, no matter what. Knitting his brows, Ningyu soon came up with a plan. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said, "According to reliable sources, Jin Xinghai has left the Jin family to handle an important matter, and he won't be back for a while. If we leave now, it's our best chance. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one." "All right, I'll go with you." After a brief pondering, Xieze gritted his teeth and continued, "But if you encounter a middle-phase Heavenly Sovereign, I will only use my aura to intimidate the other party, and I will not fight with them." "That's for sure, I understand." Ningyu nodded his head. Xieze only had 3 months left to live, and every time he made a move, he would be heavily injured. Even if Xieze wanted to make a move, Ningyu wouldn't let him. After all, in Ningyu's heart, Xieze was the umbrella that would protect his force. At the very least, before Bada, Master Xingyun, and the rest reached the Heavenly Sovereign Realm, Xieze was a powerful deterrent that deterred others from going against them. "Let's make some preparations first. One day, no, 3 hours from now." Initially, Ningyu wanted to lead the Golden Arowana Fish King and the rest to attack the Jin family a day later. But after thinking about it, a day's time might allow the Jin family to react and call their friends to defend the Jin family. In just an instant, Ningyu decided to set off in 3 hours to catch the Jin family by surprise. In 3 hours, the Golden Arowana Fish King should be able to recover to his peak state. As for Master Xingyun, Bada, and the rest, they wouldn't even need 3 hours to recover. Whoosh! Leaving those words behind, Ningyu left the conference hall. There were many things that needed to be done, and Ningyu had to inform the rest of them one by one to ensure that they knew the entire plan. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if something went wrong. How many secrets does Ningyu have? Looking at Ningyu's departing silhouette, Xieze's face turned grave as he muttered, "A 9th-grade human sovereign can have a group of 9th-grade Earth sovereigns following him. Could he be the pride of an ancient family?" Buzz. Right at this moment, the space beside Xieze suddenly split open. 2 silhouettes appeared on his left and right. Fairy Yun Shi and the Palatial Lord. The moment they appeared, the Palatial Lord knitted her brows. "Ancestor, the 100-flower fan is the ultimate treasure of our 100 Flowers Palace. Why do we have to give it to Ningyu? Our 100 Flowers Palace has many other treasures. Can't we just give one to Ningyu?" Not only was the Palatial Lord confused, but even Fairy Yun Shi couldn't understand. The 100-flower fan could allow a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign to confront a heavenly sovereign, and allow a pinnacle initial phase heavenly sovereign to take a few moves from a middle phase heavenly sovereign. Chapter 1551. Naming. What do you think? Xie Zhe didn't directly answer Fairy Yun Shi and the palace master's puzzlement, and he said indifferently, "What do you think of Ningyu? Ningyu is very mysterious." The palace master didn't know why Xie Zhe asked, but she still said, "If it wasn't for his help, the Flower Palace wouldn't have been able to survive this calamity." "From a friend's point of view, Ningyu is a rare friend," Yun Shi replied. "Pa. Xie Zhe suddenly clapped his hands and slowly stood up from the chair. Xie Zhe glanced at Fairy Yun Shi and Palace Mistress Bai Hua before he said, "I won't hide it from you. I only have 3 months left to live, and Ningyu knows how to refine Jiazi pills." As soon as the word pill fell, Xie Zhe's figure gradually became illusory and soon disappeared. This, Fairy Yun Shi and the palace master exchanged a glance when they heard Xie Zhe's words. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. The reason why Fairy Yun Shi and the palace mistress were so shocked wasn't because Xie Zhe could refine the Jiazi pill, but because Xie Zhe only had 3 months left to live. The demon spirit realm had already taken over the central continent, and the second continent to attack was the pill formation continent. The palace master and the others had hoped that Xie Zhe could guard the Flower Palace, but now it seemed that Xie Zhe could only live for 3 months. The war was coming, and the sect didn't have a top powerhouse. The consequences were obvious. Yun Shi, calculate how many cultivators the Flower Palace lost this time. The palace master took a deep breath and tried not to think too much. The Flower Palace had suffered heavy losses in this war. The palace master needed to gather cultivators as soon as possible. She couldn't let the Flower Palace decline because of this. "Right? Are the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu all right?" The palace master seemed to have thought of something and asked hastily. Everyone else in the Flower Palace could die, but the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu couldn't. Yunmu and the Talisman Supremacy's identities were very special, and they were inextricably linked to Xie Zhe. In fact, Xie Zhe was extremely respectful towards Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu. Of course, very few people knew about this, and even a top-rate expert of the Flower Palace like Fairy Yun Shi didn't know about it. In the beginning, Palatial Lord Centauria didn't know either. However, as the Palatial Lord of the Centauria Palace, she had flipped through a book. The books clearly recorded that an ancestor of the Flower Palace cultivated the Samsara secret technique. This life just happened to be the time when that ancestor reincarnated. Coupled with Xie Zhe's attitude towards Yunmu, the palace master was practically certain that Yunmu was the reincarnated ancestor of the Flower Palace. However, even if she knew about this, the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace wouldn't alert the enemy. Once that ancestor recultivated and recalled the memories of his past lifetime, then the Flower Palace would welcome an unprecedented golden age. "They're fine. Don't worry, Palace Master. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." As she spoke, Fairy Yun Shi moved her feet and left the assembly hall. "Ningyu can concoct Jiazi Dan? Jiazi Dan is a heaven-defying pill that can increase a martial artist's lifespan by 60 years. Looking at Fairy Yun Shi's departing figure, the palace master frowned slightly and muttered, "Swish." At the same time, City Lord's estate, Giant Shield Pavilion. Ningyu sat at the head of the Giant Shield Pavilion. Lu Wei, Supremacy Spirit Su, Dan Guzi, the Sword of Evil, the Golden Arowana King, Grandmaster Zhao Bada, Grandmaster Xingyun, and a group of martial artists who were close to Ningyu were all sitting on either side of Ningyu. "I have something to announce." Ningyu's gaze swept across Lu Wei and the others, and then he said slowly, "In a while, the Sky Demon region will be in chaos. Before that happens, I want to establish a force." "Establish a force?" Hearing Ningyu's words, the Golden Arowana King's face lit up with excitement. The Golden Arowana King was excited not because he wanted to establish a force, but because once his force was established, many people would help him find the ingredients for the Dragon Mark pill. The Dragon Mark pill was an extremely heaven-defying pill, and it required a lot of ingredient. Just relying on the Golden Arowana King himself would be very difficult to find in a short period of time. I raise both hands in approval. From now on, the entire Golden Arowana King clan will join you. The Golden Arowana King said loudly, setting an example. How can I be left out of establishing a force? The second to speak was Dan Guzi. Dan Guzi's life had been saved by Ningyu, so joining Ningyu's new force was only natural. I'll join too. Me too. Since you've all joined, I'll definitely join too. Next, the Sword of Evil, Sovereign Spirit Su Bada, and the others all announced that they would join Ningyu's force. Even Grandmaster Xingyun was willing to bring the people of Nebula Academy to join the forces established by Ningyu and become a branch academy. Thank you, everyone. Ningyu's eyes were slightly moist. He, a 9th-grade human sovereign, had told a group of Earth sovereigns that he wanted to establish a force, and these Earth sovereigns had not even asked or hesitated before choosing to join. Ningyu would engrave this kindness in his heart. Sweeping his gaze across the crowd again, Ningyu suddenly felt that the burden on his shoulders had become much heavier. In his previous life, Ningyu had been a peak 9th-grade alchemist and a peak 9th-grade Earth sovereign, but he had not established a force. Who would have thought that in this life, he would establish his own force as soon as he reached 9th-grade human sovereign? Moreover, the moment his force was established, it would immediately become a super force and become one of the top forces in the Danqing continent. As long as there were sky sovereigns in the force, it would not be impossible for them to go against a colossus like the Emperor Palace. By the way, what's the name of our force? Just as Ningyu was in a daze, Lu Wei's words rang in Ningyu's ears. Ningyu instantly reacted when he heard the words that came to his ears. Everyone, express your opinions. Let's see what the name of the force we're establishing should be. What's the name? Of course, it's the Invincible Sect. The Golden Arowana Fish King said loudly, the force we're establishing will definitely be a sect. In the future, we'll recruit disciples and dominate the Danqing continent and even the Sky Demon territory. The Invincible Sect sounds majestic, no matter how you look at it. We'll use them to, hold on. Hearing the Golden Arowana Fish King's words, Ningyu's face darkened. He hurriedly said, Invincible my ass. How about the Golden Dragon Sect? Alright, let's call it the Golden Dragon Sect. How did you think of this name? The Golden Dragon Sect is even better than the Invincible Sect. In my opinion, our force should be called the Golden Dragon Sect. I'll be the first sect master of the Golden Dragon Sect. Just give me any position. There's no need to be so particular. The Golden Arowana Fish King clapped his hands and cheered. However, he was slightly hesitant about the last position. In terms of strength, he was fully deserving of the title of Sect Master. Chapter 1552. Hall of Supreme, can you not add to the chaos? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, it's called the Golden Dragon Sect, but it's not as domineering as the Fish King Sect. The Fish King, not only represents you, but also represents the king of tens of thousands of fish. In the future, when tens of thousands of fish come to pay respects to you, doesn't it look like they're worshipping you? Hearing Ningyu's words, the Golden Arowana Fish King's eyes lit up, his face filled with excitement. 10,000 Fish King. Just the name itself sounded domineering. Why not call it Fish King Sect? It would be better to call it 10,000 Fish King. It was both domineering and unique. Ningyu, I didn't expect you to be so literate. Let's call it 10,000 Fish King. I'm very satisfied with this name, the Golden Arowana Fish King said. What's the use of being satisfied? Ningyu couldn't be bothered to waste words with the Golden Arowana Fish King. This guy was purely here to add to the chaos. Shifting his gaze, Ningyu looked at Grandmaster Xingyun and asked, Grandmaster Xingyun, in your opinion, what should we call our force? Supreme Pavilion. Grandmaster Xingyun didn't say much, just 3 words. Whoosh. Although Master Xingyun only said 3 words, these 3 words won the unanimous approval of everyone. Supreme Pavilion is not bad. At least 1,000 times better than the Invincible Sect, Golden Dragon Sect, Fish King Sect, Fish Emperor Sect, etc. Bada didn't hide his thoughts at all. Let's call it Supreme Pavilion. I vote. I vote too. Supreme Pavilion is much better than the Fish King Sect. I agree too, let's call it the Supreme Pavilion. No objections. Sure. After Grandmaster Xingyun mentioned Supreme Pavilion, the Sword of Evil, Dan Guzi, Sovereign Spirit Su, and even Ningyu didn't have any objections. Supreme Pavilion did sound 1,000 times better than the Invincible Sect. You really don't know what's good for you. The Golden Arowana Fish King Sect protested. Invincible Sect, Fish King Sect, any of them is 10,000 times better than this stupid Supreme Pavilion. Even now, the Golden Arowana Fish King was still stubborn and wouldn't compromise. I don't think it's appropriate to call it the Supreme Pavilion. At this moment Lu and I, who had been silent all this time, shook his head and said, In the Great Xia Kingdom, there is a small force called the Supreme Pavilion. Since we are going to build a super force, we cannot clash with other people's names. This is troublesome. Ningyu frowned slightly. He really hadn't expected this situation. Back in the Great Xia Kingdom, Ningyu had visited the Supreme Pavilion and purchased some items. Now that he was going to establish a force, he definitely couldn't have the same name as the Supreme Pavilion. Suddenly, Ningyu thought of a name. Supreme Hall. Ningyu said in a clear voice. Supreme Hall. Hearing this name, Lu Wei and the others frowned slightly, and no one expressed their opinion. Strictly speaking, the Supreme Palace was about the same as the Supreme Pavilion. In fact, the Supreme Pavilion was slightly better. However, the Supreme Pavilion was already called out by a force, and their strength could not be the same as someone else's. Supreme Hall is fine, I agree. After a while, Lu Wei nodded and said, I agree too. Supreme Hall is indeed not bad. It can be the name of our force. Supreme Hall sounds domineering, it's a good name. Good name my *SS. It's not as domineering as the Fish King Sect. Everyone agreed, except for the Golden Arowana Fish King, who rolled his eyes and was speechless. From what he knew, the Fish King Sect and the Invincible Sect were much better than Supreme Hall. However, he was also helpless against Ningyu's arbitrary decision. Since no one has any objections, then it's decided. Our force will be called Supreme Hall. Ningyu's tone suddenly became serious. Swoosh. As Ningyu's tone changed, the temperature in the room seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. Everyone knew that Ningyu was going to announce everyone's specific location in Supreme Hall. Supreme Hall currently has 4 branch halls. Fish King Palace will be led by the Golden Arowana Fish King. Wolven Kingdom will be led by Bada. Nebula Palace will be led by Grandmaster Nebula. Pill Emperor Palace will be led by Dan Guzi. Sword of Evil, Reverend Lingxiu, the 2 of you will stay in Pill Emperor Palace to help Dan Guzi. Ningyu took a deep breath and explained the divisions of Supreme Hall, as well as the candidates for Hall Master. Among them, the Fish King Palace and the Wolven Kingdom were the protective umbrellas of Supreme Hall, responsible for the safety of the entire Supreme Hall. It could be said that the Fish King Palace and the Wolven Kingdom would not have any human cultivators joining them. They belonged exclusively to the Golden Arowana Fish King and Bada, and listened directly to Ningyu. Nebula Palace was different. In the future, everyone who joined Supreme Hall would have to pass the Nebula Palace's test. The power and responsibility of Nebula Palace was very heavy. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Supreme Hall was the brain. Pill Emperor Palace was easy to understand. From now on, Supreme Hall's supply of medicinal pills would all be provided by them. Actually, Ningyu wanted to build a formation hall at first, but he remembered that he was not very familiar with Grandmaster Zhao, so he decided to leave it for later. As for the enforcement hall and assassination hall, Ningyu had not found suitable people for these divisions yet. He would wait until he found suitable people in the future. Not bad, not bad. Fish King Palace, just what I want. Hearing that Ningyu wanted him to be the hall master of the Fish King Palace, the golden arowana Fish King instantly became arrogant. He raised his head and said, "From now on, I am the hall master of the Fish King Palace. I will consider everything for the Fish King Palace." The golden arowana Fish King rolled his eyes and looked at Ningyu with evil intentions. "Grand Hall Master, you see that our Fish King Palace has nothing. Do you want to consider giving us some medicinal pills? The quality of the medicinal pills does not need to be too high. Fish Dizzy Pill and Dragon Mark Pill will do." Go to the side." Ningyu was infuriated by the golden arowana Fish King. Fish Dizzy Pill and Dragon Mark Pill were still ordinary medicinal pills? No matter which one it was, it would be difficult for him to refine them. As the saying went, even the cleverest housewife cannot cook without rice. He was currently in such a state. "Grand Hall Master, we have established Supreme Hall. We need a place to settle down. We cannot stay in Giant Shield City anymore." Grandmaster Xing Yun had a clearer view of the situation. A big force had to act like one. If they were to stay in the city of another sect, how would that be? Therefore, finding a place to settle down was the most important thing now. "I have thought about this. Everyone, get ready. We will go to the capital of the Thousand Leaves Empire in 3 hours. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Grandmaster Xing Yun and the others did not need to worry. He said, "Also, Bada, leave Giant Shield City and bring your clansmen in." Although Giant Shield City was out of danger, dozens of bloodthirsty berserk wolves were still hiding outside the city. Bada was a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme. It would be best for him to search for them. "Everyone, get moving. We will gather at the gate of Giant Shield City in 3 hours. After saying that, Ningyu's figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. Ningyu would not waste these 3 hours for no reason. Chapter 1553. Chapter 1553. Chapter 1553 Maple Leaf Forest. The Maple Leaf Forest was located to the west of Giant Shield City. It was about 10 minutes away from Giant Shield City. To the people of Giant Shield City, the Maple Leaf Forest was very ordinary. So ordinary that there wasn't a single beast inside. As for why there were no beasts inside, everyone had their own opinions. Some said that there was an extremely powerful beast deep within the forest that had reached the Sky Supreme Realm. That was why the weaker beasts didn't dare to go near it. Others said that the Maple Leaf Forest was a dangerous place. No beast could stay there for more than an hour. There was even another rumor. It was said that there was a powerful martial artist suppressed beneath the Maple Leaf Forest. Every 3 years, the martial artist would howl like a ghost. Of course, these were all rumors. No one had ever confirmed it. Buzz buzz. At this time, at the entrance of the Maple Leaf Forest, the space suddenly split open, and a figure slowly walked out of the void. This figure was none other than Ningyu. After leaving Giant Shield City, Ningyu had rushed here without stopping. "Come out." Ningyu took out the blue jade bracelet from his storage ring and threw it on the ground. Boom. At that moment, the blue jade bracelet shone brightly and Xie appeared before Ningyu. Maple Leaf Forest. Xie looked at the Maple Leaf Forest in front of him and his face lit up with excitement. However, the excitement on Xie's face was quickly concealed. "My main body is inside the Maple Leaf Forest. Let's go in." Xie moved and was about to enter the Maple Leaf Forest. Before Xie could move a few steps, Ningyu waved his hand. "Don't go in yet. You seem to know a lot about the Maple Leaf Forest. Tell me more about it and what's the story behind it. Hearing Ningyu's words, Xie had to stop. In front of Ningyu, Xie didn't dare to be too arrogant. After all, within Xie, there was a sliver of soul power. If Ningyu controlled that soul power, he could easily kill Xie's clone. This is just an ordinary forest. There's nothing special about it. Xie scratched his head and said, "The reason why my main body chose to stay here is because this place is very ordinary and will not be disturbed by others." Really? Ningyu looked at Xie with interest, revealing a playful smile. Evil One was full of tricks and his words could not be trusted. Without a doubt, Xie did not tell Ningyu the truth. Of course. Although he didn't tell the truth, Xie acted as if he was telling the truth. Slapping his chest, Xie said, "My life is in your hands. Even if I have guts, I would not dare to lie to you." "It's good that you didn't lie to me," Ningyu said calmly. "Now, let your main body come out. I want to see him here." "That's not very good, is it? My main body is currently cultivating the myriad embodiment technique. If I come out now, it's very likely that I'll fall short of success." Xie hesitated, not wanting his main body to come out. In fact, Xie even wanted to use the myriad embodiment technique to lure Ningyu away so that Ningyu would enter the maple leaf forest. Humph! Ningyu scoffed and used his soul power to control Xie. Poochie! Ningyu had just used his soul power when Xie spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned white. Last chance. Ningyu could not be bothered to waste time with Xie. His tone was cold as he said, 3, 2, all right, I'll let my main body come out." With what happened before him, Xie did not dare to talk back to Ningyu anymore. His life was in Ningyu's hands. If Ningyu really killed his clone, wouldn't he suffer a great loss? Xie waved his hands and even forced out a drop of blood to burn. Poochie! Very quickly, the blood was burned out. Rustle! Not long after Xie's essence blood was ignited, a powerful gust of wind howled out from the maple forest. Rustle! Not long after, 10 odd figures flew out from the maple leaf forest and landed around Ningyu, surrounding Ningyu. "This is your main body?" Looking at the dozens of figures that suddenly appeared, Ningyu did not look too nervous. Stretching out his right hand, Ningyu pointed at the black-clothed cultivator at the front and said to Xie, "His clone is a third-grade Earth Sovereign, so why is the main body only a first-grade Earth Sovereign? You are very bold, to even dare to control my doppelganger." Without waiting for Xie to reply, the black-robed warrior said coldly, "I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Then, lick my toes. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is." "Have you lost your mind?" Ningyu was shocked. Not to mention whether the black-clothed cultivator was Xie's main body, how could a first-grade Earth Sovereign dare to speak to him in such a manner? Not only was the black-clothed cultivator a first-grade Earth Sovereign, the rest were all pinnacle 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns, and some weren't even first-grade Earth Sovereigns. This formation was indeed a little weak. Initially, Ningyu had prepared a trump card. But now, it looked like he didn't even need to use it to kill the dozens of cultivators before him. "You dare to say that I'm insane? I think you're tired of living." The black-clothed cultivator was on the verge of going insane as he roared, "Go, go! No matter what, we have to kill this arrogant brat today." "Xie, I'll leave them to you." Ningyu took a few steps back and kicked Xie's butt. "Die." Xie did not resist and followed Ningyu's instructions to join the battle. Xie was, after all, a third-grade Earth Sovereign. Against dozens of 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns, he was naturally more than capable. A series of thudding sounds rang out. Under Xie's powerful attacks, dozens of 9th-grade Earth Sovereigns were quickly killed. "Looks like my guess was right." Ningyu's attention was all on Xie's right hand. Every time Xie killed a pinnacle 9th-grade Earth Sovereign, A cold ray of light would shoot out from his right palm and quickly enter the pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign's body, then return within a second. Although this movement was extremely subtle, Ningyu's sharp senses still detected it. A long time ago, Ningyu had a bold guess. Xie had lied to him. Xie had risked entering Giant Shield City. Clearly, this body was his main body. As for those outside Giant Shield City, they were all clones. Now, it seemed like Ningyu's guess was right. If I devour all these clones, Xie Yi's cultivation should be able to rise to 4th grade Earth Supreme. Ningyu's face turned slightly solemn. He had left Giant Shield City to confirm if Xie Yi was the main body and then find a way to obtain the boundless embodiment technique. Chapter 1554. Chapter 1554. Chapter 1554 Experts Attack. Poof. Poof. Xie Yi did not hold back, and every single move he made was a killing move. Only 10 minutes had passed since Xie Yi had made his move. In just 10 minutes, dozens of pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereigns were killed by Xie Yi. It was so much so that even the black-clothed cultivators in the 1st grade Earth Sovereign realm were brutally killed by Xie Yi. Boom. After killing dozens of cultivators, Xie Yi's aura soared into the sky. 4th grade Earth Sovereign realm? Sensing the aura from Xie Yi, Ningyu was a little shocked. Although Ningyu knew that Xie Yi had reached the 4th grade Earth Sovereign realm, Ningyu was still shocked that Xie Yi had reached the 4th grade Earth Sovereign realm so quickly. Russell. However, when Xie Yi had just reached the 4th grade Earth Sovereign realm, dozens of silhouettes flew out from the maple forest. This time, the cultivators that appeared were all 1st grade Earth Sovereigns with a 2nd grade Earth Sovereign realm in the lead. Kill! Xie Yi stomped on the ground and swiftly charged out. After reaching the 4th grade Earth Sovereign realm, Xie Yi's fighting strength had increased by a lot. Facing dozens of 1st grade Earth Sovereigns, Xie Yi was fearless as he charged left and right. Poof! 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 Under Xie Yi's powerful attacks, a 1st grade Earth Sovereign would be killed every few seconds. Ningyu's eyes were sharp. Just like before, Xie Yi was still devouring those cultivators. If those dozens of 1st grade Earth Sovereigns were devoured by Xie Yi, then his cultivation would definitely reach the 5th grade Earth Sovereign realm. I'll see what you're trying to do. Although he had noticed Xie Yi's actions, Ningyu did not startle him. He pretended to be enjoying the show and even yelled at Xie Yi, "Don't mess with those useless things. I'll give you 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I don't want to see any cultivators that can stand up." "I don't need 20 minutes, 10 minutes is enough." Xie Yi turned around and smiled at Ningyu. Shortly after, he ignored Ningyu and frantically attacked the dozens of 1st grade Earth Sovereigns. The facts proved that Xie Yi wasn't being arrogant. In 10 minutes, he had indeed killed dozens of 1st grade Earth Supremes. However, there was one thing that surprised Ningyu. After devouring so many 1st grade Earth Sovereigns, Xie Yi still hadn't advanced to 5th grade Earth Sovereign. His cultivation was still at 4th grade Earth Sovereign. Moreover, this time was a little different from before. After a full 5 minutes, no warriors came out of the maple forest. This situation not only shocked Ningyu, even Xie Yi's mouth was slightly agape, a little dumbfounded. Did something go wrong? Xie Wan was extremely nervous, and his entire body was shaking. If it weren't for the soul power that Ningyu had left in its body, evil would have already rushed into the maple forest. What happened? At that moment, Ningyu moved and walked towards Evil One. He said, "Call out all your clones in the forest." "I don't know why, but I've lost contact with my clones in the forest." Xie Yi's face was grave as he continued, "In my opinion, we should enter the forest and see what's going on." "That's a good idea." Ningyu nodded his head. "But before we enter the forest, I hope that you can answer me." "What is it?" Xie Yi asked. "It's time to tell me about the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art." Ningyu shrugged. "I know that this isn't your clone, But your main body. Are you kidding me? How can I be the main body? Xie Yi's eyes flickered. He refused to admit that he was the main body. Before reaching the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, Xie Yi wasn't confident that he could expel the soul power from his body. That also meant that he still couldn't escape from Ning Yu's claws. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit, Ning Yu snorted coldly. His body flashed and he dashed towards Xie Yi at a shocking speed. Boom! Raising his right leg, Ning Yu kicked Xie Yi's chest along with a terrifying gale. The huge force caused Xie Yi to fly a few feet back, crashing into a huge tree that was as thick as his waist. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. The huge tree that was as thick as a person's waist was broken by Evil One. Rustle! The broken tree fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. In the past, I didn't attack you because I wasn't sure that you were the main body. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to obtain the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art. But now that I'm sure that you're the main body, there's no need for me to hold back. Ning Yu crossed his arms as he looked at Xie Yi with interest. You only have 2 choices. First, submit to me and tell me the Myriad Freedom Transformation Art. Second, die, and I'll use a secret technique to devour your memories. I'm not willing. Xie Yi stood up and wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. Just a little bit more. As long as there's another team of clones in the forest, I'll be able to advance to the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Once I advance to the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, the soul energy you left in my body will be useless. Failure at the last step. Xie Yi's current state could only be described as failure at the last step. No matter how much he calculated, he didn't expect that something would happen within the maple leaf forest. It's too late to say anything now. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Ning Yu shrugged his shoulders. 1. Go to hell. Xie Yi flicked his wrist and threw the blue jade bracelet out when Ning Yu said 1. Whoosh! The blue jade bracelet's speed was very fast, and it arrived in front of Ning Yu in almost an instant. Explode! Along with Xie Yi's roar, the blue jade bracelet exploded. Not good, I've lost contact with Xie Yi. The blue jade bracelet's explosion did not cause Ning Yu to panic. The blue jade bracelet's explosion was at most equivalent to a 1st grade Earth Sovereign's self-destruction. It was not enough to hurt Ning Yu. But now that he had lost contact with Evil One, Ning Yu panicked a little. However, the panic in Ning Yu's heart quickly subsided. Ning Yu realized that he could control Xie Yi again. What's going on? After the blue jade bracelet's explosion dissipated, Ning Yu turned to look at the maple leaf forest. Ning Yu couldn't help but curse when he saw it. Xie Yi stood on the spot, his face filled with despair. On his left stood a young martial artist. There were 2 old men standing on his right. Ning Yu recognized the young martial artist. It was none other than Di Lingtian from the Emperor Palace. It was the law of space. The reason why Ning Yu was surprised was not because of the spatial law, but because of the other 2 elders. As for the other 2 elders, they were both heavenly sovereigns. One was an early-stage Sky Supreme, the other was a mid-stage Sky Supreme. Haha, I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find what I'm looking for. The early-stage Sky Supreme Elder smiled, and locked his gaze on Ning Yu. If you had stayed in Giant Shield City, we might have had to spend more effort to catch you. But now you're our prisoner. Chapter 1555. Chapter 1555. Emperor Lin. Looking at the 2 heavenly sovereigns before him, Ning Yu's face turned extremely unsightly. He had a trump card, but it wasn't of much use against a middle-phase heavenly sovereign. However, Ning Yu did not choose to sit and wait. He opened the Yuzuan Pagoda and released the Emperor Palace's ancestor. As long as the Emperor Palace's ancestor was in his hands, Ning Yu wasn't afraid of the middle-phase heavenly sovereign of the Emperor Palace doing anything to him. Release Di Su, and I can spare your life. Seeing that Ning Yu released Di Lingtian's master, the middle phase heavenly sovereign coldly said, "Otherwise, I will let you know the meaning of cruelty." "I'm sorry, but I already know the meaning of cruelty. I don't need you to tell me." Ning Yu raised his right leg and lashed it against Di Su's knee. Boom! Boom! Di Su couldn't help but kneel in front of Ning Yu from the intense pain coming from his knees. Di Su raised his head and looked at Ning Yu with viciousness in his eyes. If gazes could kill, Di Su would probably make a move against Ning Yu. Di Su's actions had angered Ning Yu. Ning Yu raised his right leg and lashed it against Di Su's back, causing Di Su to fall on the ground. At the same time, Ning Yu's indifferent voice resounded, "You better behave yourself. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen." Ning Yu's actions had caused the two heavenly sovereigns to have viciousness in their eyes. As the top experts of Emperor God Palace, they were ordered to come to Giant Shield City to save Di Lingtian's master, Di Su. They thought it would be a piece of cake, but who would have thought that they would encounter trouble with Ning Yu? Judging from Ning Yu's performance, the two heavenly sovereigns knew that if they continued to force Ning Yu, then Di Su's life would be at stake. "Tell me, what will it take for you to release Di Su?" The mid-stage Sky Supreme from God Emperor Palace was called Di Lin. He was one of the top 3 experts in God Emperor Palace. Now that he was bargaining with a 9th-grade human sovereign, Di Lin felt that he had lost all his face. Therefore, his tone was extremely cold. Di Lin secretly made up his mind that as long as he could save Di Su, he would grind Ning Yu's bones into ashes and cut him into 18 pieces. It's simple. A life for a life. Ning Yu's expression had already regained its usual calmness. He said slowly, "Release Xie Yi, and I can consider releasing Di Su, that useless piece of trash." "What is the relationship between you and this person? Why are there so many cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest with auras similar to his?" If Ning Yu had not mentioned Xie Yi, Di Lin would not have paid much attention to him. Di Lin was slightly surprised that Ning Yu had mentioned Xie Yi. They had rushed here from God Emperor Palace and landed in Maple Leaf Forest at once. Who would have thought that they would encounter a large number of cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest? The auras of those cultivators were very similar to Xie Yi. At first, Di Lin and the others did not display their auras. Instead, they behaved like low-level human supreme masters. Since they seemed to be of low cultivation, the warriors in the Maple Leaf Forest attacked them one after another, trying to kill them. This situation naturally made Di Lin very angry. Therefore, without saying a word, Di Lin displayed his powerful strength and killed all the cultivators who surrounded them. Di Lin thought that he had killed all the cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest. He did not expect to see Xie Yi again. Moreover, Xie Yi's aura was very similar to the cultivators he had killed. This aroused his suspicion. Hearing Di Lin's words, Xie Yi's eyes widened and his face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for Di Lin, he would have devoured all of his clones and his cultivation would have reached the 5th-grade Earth Sovereign Realm, expelling the soul energy in his body. Now, his doppelgangers had been killed by Di Lin and he had fallen into Di Lin's hands. If he had fallen into Di Lin's hands, Xie Yi might not have been so angry. Most importantly, Ning Yu still controlled his life and could kill him at any time. This was awkward. On the surface, his life was in Di Lin's hands, but in fact, everything was in Ning Yu's hands. In other words, if Ning Yu wanted to, he could even make Xie Yi self-destruct. "Oh, I didn't cause you any trouble, but you are glaring at me. Tell me, what is your relationship with the cultivators in Maple Leaf Forest?" Di Lin raised his eyebrows and said gloomily, "If you can't give me a reason, I might make a mistake and kill you too." "I don't know them either," Xie Yi said without hesitation. "Ning Yu and I had just left Giant Shield City and were about to enter Maple Leaf Forest when we bumped into you." Xie Yi did not even frown when he said this. From this, one could see that Xie Yi's ability to lie had reached the pinnacle. "You don't know them either?" Xie Yi did not frown, but Di Lin did. Since you are not telling the truth, then I will have to kill you as well. As he spoke, Di Lin raised his right hand and punched towards Xie Yi's head with a violent gust of yuan qi. Di Lin did not use his full strength, but only 10% of his strength. However, as a middle phase heavenly sovereign, even if Di Lin had only used 10% of his strength, Xie Yi still couldn't withstand it. Ningyu, stop him. Seeing that Di Lin's fist was about to land on his head, Xie Yi quickly used his soul power to communicate with Ningyu. I can tell you the art of 1,000 transformations. How can I trust you? Ningyu asked calmly. He wasn't anxious at all. My life is in your hands. Why don't you trust me? Xie Yi said hurriedly. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Ningyu shrugged and did not comment. Damn it, I will tell you the first 2 phrases of the art of 1,000 transformations. Seeing that Ningyu did not fall for it, Xie Yi cursed under his breath. He then recited the first 2 lines of the incantation. Hearing Xie Yi's words, Ningyu's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and said to Di Lin, That's enough. Xie Yi is my man. If you dare hurt him, I will let Di Su know what cruelty is. Shua. Hearing Ningyu's words, Di Lin's fist came to a stop. Very good. It looks like you have a good relationship with him. Di Lin's lips curled into a smile. We'll do as you say. Let's make a deal. I'll let him go and you let Di Su go. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Ningyu's eyes widened. A 4th grade Earth Sovereign for an initial phase, Heavenly Supreme. No matter how I look at it, it's a huge loss. Then what do you want? Chapter 1556. Chapter 1556. Chapter 1556 Devour. If that's the case, then you want to fight to the death with me. Di Lin's cold words did not affect Ningyu at all. Anyway, he had Di Su on his side, so Di Lin wouldn't dare to take the risk. You think you're qualified to fight me to the death? Di Lin's face was gloomy, and there was a hint of viciousness between his brows. He said, If you dare to kill Di Su, then our Divine Emperor Palace will go all out and flatten Giant Shield City. And Ningyu didn't expect that Di Lin would threaten him with this. To be honest, Di Lin's threat of Giant Shield City had no effect at all. First of all, Giant Shield City belonged to the 100 Flowers Palace and had nothing to do with him. Secondly, the Supreme Palace that he had built was located in the Royal Palace of the 1,000 Leaves Empire. Even if Di Lin really destroyed Giant Shield City, it would not affect him. I'll wait for you to flatten Giant Shield City. Ningyu shrugged and then he grabbed Di Su. His figure flashed as he flashed towards Giant Shield City. Ningyu was gambling. He was betting that Di Lin would not dare to act rashly. If he won the bet, he could successfully escape to Giant Shield City. If he lost the bet, he would just hide in the Ascension Pagoda and never come out. Damn it! Seeing Ningyu running away with Di Su, Di Lin cursed under his breath and said coldly, Follow them. Voila! Seeing Di Lin running, the early phase Heavenly Sovereigns and Law of Space exchanged a glance before they swiftly followed up. Xie Yi was grabbed by an early stage Sky Supreme and taken away. Master Xingyun, how is Master Zhao's formation going? Ningyu flew towards Giant Shield City while asking Master Xingyun about the situation. Actually, the moment Ningyu saw Di Lin, he had used a secret technique to contact Master Xingyun and asked him to inform Master Zhao to set up a formation outside Giant Shield City. Supreme Palace hadn't been established for long, so their first battle had to be beautiful. Ningyu only had one goal, which was to capture or kill Di Lin. As long as he could capture Di Lin, Ningyu dared to mobilize the entire Supreme Palace and go to Celestial Emperor Palace to do something big. Of course, everything was built on the premise that Di Lin was captured alive. If Di Lin escaped, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Lin might even return to the Emperor Divine Palace to gather troops and interfere with the Supreme Hall's attack on the Jin family of the 1,000 Leaves Empire. I need another half an hour, Master Xingyun replied. Right now, it was very lively outside Giant Shield City. Hundreds of martial artists were busy but orderly. Looking carefully, one could even see Fairy Yun Shi and Palatial Lord Centuria's figures. 10 minutes ago, Master Nebula found Palatial Lord Centuria and said that he wanted to set up an array formation outside Giant Shield City. As long as the array was completed, even a middle-phase heavenly sovereign wouldn't be able to pass through. Ningyu had helped the Flower Palace so greatly, so the palace mistress of the Flower Palace naturally wouldn't refuse a small request from him. That was how this scene came to be. Hundreds of martial artists were busy. All sorts of origin crystals and materials were placed around according to Master Zhao's instructions. The array that Master Zhao had set up was called the Ternary Array. Rumor had it that the Ternary Array was extremely powerful. Even a middle-phase heavenly sovereign who accidentally stepped into the Ternary Array might die inside. Half an hour? Looks like I'll have to walk around. Hearing that it would take half an hour, Ningyu took a deep breath and started shuttling around Giant Shield City with Di Lin. Originally, they were only 10 minutes away from Giant Shield City, but Ningyu had dragged them for more than 20 minutes. They still hadn't reached Giant Shield City. We can't go on like this. D-Gang, go to Giant Shield City and see what's going on. I'll continue to follow Ningyu. Di Lin was indeed one of the top few martial artists in Celestial Emperor Palace. After 20 minutes, he realized the severity of the problem. There had to be a reason for this. For Ningyu to bring them around Giant Shield City in circles, there had to be some kind of scheme. Even though Di Lin was a middle-phase heavenly supreme, he was still wary of Ningyu. After all, Ningyu could even control an early-phase heavenly supreme like Di Lin. If he had a scheme, it wouldn't be impossible for him to control Di Lin. Yes. Hearing Di Lin's words, D-Gang didn't waste any more time. He turned around and flew towards Giant Shield City. Since D-Gang had gone to Giant Shield City, the task of controlling Xie naturally fell on Spatial Law. Grade 1 Earth Supreme? If D-Gang was around, Xie wouldn't dare to do anything. But now that D-Gang had left and a Grade 1 Earth Supreme was controlling him, Xie's mind immediately became active. He even wanted to kill Spatial Law and leave. Die. Xie wasn't an indecisive person. He immediately attacked and threw a surprise punch at Spatial Law's chest. Even a Grade 3 Earth Supreme might not be able to block this punch of mine. Eat my punch, you're still not dead. The fist landed on the Space Law's chest. Xie's face was filled with joy. He immediately opened up his Space Law body and dashed away. The reason why Xie dared to run with Ningyu on his back was because he was far away from Ningyu. If he ran now, Ningyu definitely wouldn't be able to catch up. The second reason was that Xie had already found a way to break the soul power in his body. As long as he could escape, he would definitely be able to regain his freedom. Is that so? But reality made Xie's jaw drop, his face full of shock. Taking on Xie's punch, Spatial Law didn't suffer too much damage. Xie's punch might have been able to heavily injure Di Lingtian, or even kill him, but it wasn't suitable to deal with Spatial Law. After all, Spatial Law was a Grade 4 Earth Supreme and was only possessing Di Lingtian. You're still thinking of escaping after falling into my hands? I think you're tired of living. Spatial Law's eyes flashed with a cold light as he waved his hands and slapped Xie's body. Sizzle! Without a doubt, Spatial Law was hungry again. A powerful devouring force continued to devour Xie. Xie was originally a Grade 4 Earth Supreme, but after being devoured by Spatial Law, his aura started to fall. Pinnacle Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Late Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Middle Grade 4 Earth Supreme, Third Grade Earth Supreme. In just a few minutes, Xie's aura had fallen from Pinnacle Grade 4 Earth Supreme to Third Grade Earth Supreme. Furthermore, Xie's aura was still falling. Args! Feeling his aura falling, Xie wanted to cry. Now that he was so far away from Ningyu, he couldn't contact Ningyu even if he wanted to. Therefore, they could only grit their teeth and swallow the bitter pill. They could only suffer in silence, unable to voice their bitterness. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be a Grade 1 Earth Supreme? Chapter 1557. Chapter 1557. Chapter 1557 Formation Arrangement, ha ha ha. The law of space seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed maniacally, then said coldly, "I'd like to see how you'll perish together with me. This is infuriating." Xie Yi's lungs were about to explode. He had lost his mind. The current Xie Yi could only be described as having lost his mind. Originally, he thought that since Ningyu couldn't control himself, it was the best opportunity to escape. Who would have thought that not only would they not be able to escape, they would also have to face disaster. If this went on, his aura would drop to the first grade Earth Supreme Realm in a few minutes, or even to the Human Supreme Realm. I have to think of something. Xie Yi rolled his eyes, trying his best to think of a solution. However, no matter how hard Xie Yi tried, he could not escape from the claws of the space laws. With such a good opportunity, the law of space naturally would not waste it. Hee, it's really like someone sends you a pillow when you're sleepy and food when you're hungry. The law of space chuckled. He was a 4th grade Earth Sovereign, and as long as he devoured Xie Yi, it wouldn't be impossible for him to reach the 5th grade Earth Sovereign realm. If he could reach the 5th grade Earth Sovereign realm, then he wouldn't be in a disadvantageous position when competing with the sapling. Otherwise, all the good stuff would be taken by the sapling, and he would only get some leftovers. You can't devour me. I know the boundless embodiment transformation. As long as you don't devour me, I can tell you the boundless embodiment transformation. Xie Yi, who had lost his mind, was naturally capable of anything. In fact, evil had even used the myriad free transformations' great art to attract the spatial laws. What the hell is the myriad free transformations? Sadly, space rules did not fall for Evil One's trick. He blinked and said, "Don't bother with all this nonsense. If you can give me some energy, I can consider letting you go. If not, you will go to hell." Evil One looked at Yi Futian. Damn it. Xie Yi cursed again. He cultivated the 10,000 freedom transformations and used up all of his energy. This requirement of spatial laws, he really could not do it. I can tell you a secret about Ningyu. Xie Yi was already desperate, biting anyone he saw. After the myriad embodiment technique failed to attract the spatial laws, he began to bite Ningyu like a mad dog. If you can know this secret of Ningyu, I can guarantee that you can save your master Di Su. Xie Yi didn't know that the spatial law was Di Lingtian. In his mind, he was talking to Di Lingtian, and Di Lingtian and Ningyu had enmity. Peddling Ningyu's secrets in front of Di Lingtian was not a big problem, no matter how one thought about it. Pa. Seeing the agreement, the law of space slapped him on the cheek and said, "What secrets does Ningyu have? Does it have anything to do with me?" This, the answer from the space law, made Evil One dumbfounded. Why don't you think about saving your master when he's being controlled by Ningyu? Cut the crap. I'll ask you one last time. Do you have any energy for me? The space law impatiently asked. Well, I really don't. Xie Yi said helplessly. If you don't, then stop wasting time. The space law waved his hands and slapped Xie Yi's body again. Whoosh. Terrifying energy flowed into his body through the space law's palms. In just a few minutes, Xie Yi's aura had fallen to the 2nd grade Earth Supreme Realm. As for the law of space, it had reached the pinnacle 4th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, just a step away from the 5th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. I'm sorry. The space law shrugged and increased the devouring power. Whoosh. A minute later, Xie Yi spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura dropped to the 9th grade, similar to Ningyu's. Bang. Not long after Xie Yi's aura dropped to the 9th grade, a muffled sound came from the Space Law's Sea of Consciousness. Boom. Then, the Space Law's aura shot into the sky. 5th grade Earth Supreme. After devouring Xie Yi's terrifying energy, his law of space cultivation rose from 4th grade Earth Supreme Realm to 5th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Not bad. Feeling the density of the energy in his body, the Space Law nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. After reaching the 5th grade, the Space Law didn't stay here. Following Ning Yu's instructions, he took Xie Yi and ran towards the giant shield city. Xie Yi couldn't contact Ning Yu, but the Space Law had a way. The spatial law brought Xie Yi along and disappeared in an instant. At the same time, on the other side, Di Lin released his powerful aura and locked onto Ning Yu. He said coldly, "If you dare to take another step, I will kill you." Whoosh. Hearing Di Lin's words, Ning Yu stopped in midair. "Tell me, what do you want?" Seeing the change in Di Lin's expression, Ning Yu had a bad feeling. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. If Di Lin was forced into a corner, he would attack at all costs. Ning Yu knew this very well. Therefore, he communicated with Master Xing Yun of the Giant Shield City while dealing with Di Lin. Once the formation in the Giant Shield City was set up, Ning Yu would immediately return to the Giant Shield City. "Hand over Di Su and I will spare your life. Otherwise, I will cut you into pieces, burn your bones and scatter your ashes." Di Lin didn't hide the coldness in his eyes. "You are only a 9th grade human supreme. Fighting with me won't end well. I know fighting with you won't end well. But if you dare to attack, I will kill Di Su immediately." Ning Yu took out the red demon sword and placed it on Di Su's neck. "You can try if you don't like it. You're courting death." Di Lin couldn't hold back his anger any longer. Stepping in the air, Di Lin dashed towards Ning Yu. "Retreat." Seeing Di Lin rush out, Ning Yu's eyes turned serious. Grabbing Di Su, Ning Yu burned his blood essence and started to escape. Just a moment ago, Master Xing Yun told Ning Yu that the formation was set up and that the other Sky Supreme Expert of the Emperor Palace was trapped. This news made Ning Yu very excited. Since the formation was set up, the next thing to do was to lure Di Lin into the formation. Fortunately, this place wasn't too far from the formation. Otherwise, Ning Yu wouldn't dare to fall out with Di Lin so quickly. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ning Yu and Di Lin, one in front of the other, flew at high speed. Because Ning Yu burned his blood essence, it only took 3 seconds for Ning Yu to teleport to the gate of the Giant Shield City. He was only 1 step away from the formation. Stop! Di Gang was trapped in the formation. Seeing Di Lin so close to Ning Yu, Di Gang immediately shouted. The current situation was very clear. If Di Lin continued to attack, even if he could kill Ning Yu, he would be trapped in the formation. Chapter 1558. Chapter 1558. Chapter 1558 Ternary Formation. What happened? Di Lin, who had been chasing after Ning Yu at full speed, suddenly heard a loud roar, which made him a little confused. Di Lin knew very well that it was Di Gang who had spoken. In Di Lin's memory, he had sent Di Gang to the Giant Shield City to investigate. Why did Di Gang warn him? At the thought of this, Di Lin looked toward the city gate of Giant Shield City. Di Lin sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what was inside. Outside the city gate, Di Gang floated in the air. His aura was at its lowest. At this moment, even a true martial realm martial artist could easily kill Di Gang. Today, I will flatten Giant Shield City. Di Gang's miserable state caused Di Lin's expression to turn extremely ugly. One must know that Di Gang was a genuine heavenly supreme powerhouse, one of the upper echelons of the Divine Emperor Palace. Now Di Gang's aura had fallen to rock bottom, and he might even die. If Di Gang was killed here, it would be a great loss to the Emperor Divine Palace. In fact, even he could not absolve himself from the blame. After all, he had come here with D Gang. Not only had he failed to accomplish his mission, but even D Gang had been killed. He would not be able to bear the consequences. D Lin's eyes turned bloodshot at the thought of this. There's a formation here, you must not, seeing D Lin's blood-red eyes, D Gang hurriedly said. Die. However, how could a furious D Lin listen to D Gang's advice? Terrifying vital qi appeared around his ankles and began to burn rapidly. Qi. The rapidly burning yuan qi caused D Lin's speed to increase by several times. D Lin, who was not far away from Ningyu, directly caught up with Ningyu after this acceleration. Clenching his right hand into a fist, D Lin threw out a punch that brought up a strong gust of wind towards Ningyu's head. D Lin's idea was simple. He wanted to blow up Ningyu's head and swallow his primordial spirit. Whoosh! What happened next caused D Lin to be a little stunned. His fist did hit Ningyu's head, but it went through Ningyu's head. Afterimage. D Lin reacted quickly. Almost in an instant, he determined that the Ningyu in front of him was an afterimage. Xiao. On the other side, Ningyu's body gradually appeared. Die. Seeing Ningyu's real body, D Lin dashed out again. D Lin had already made up his mind. No matter what, he would send Ningyu to hell today. Facing D Lin, who was charging towards him, Ningyu stood his ground with his arms crossed in front of his chest. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. He wasn't running away. Even though D Lin was fast and had reached the mid-heavenly supreme realm, Ningyu was fearless. Something's wrong. Seeing that Ningyu didn't respond, D Lin's heart raced. He felt that something was wrong. However, D Lin's worry was soon overshadowed by his raging killing intent. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at Ningyu's head with a violent primordial qi gale. This time, D Lin's judgment was correct. The Ningyu in front of him was not an afterimage, but the real Ningyu. You're going to die this time. D Lin could almost see Ningyu's miserable state when he was killed by him. He couldn't help but reveal a devilish smile. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, 3 huge primordial qi light pillars suddenly appeared in front of Ningyu. The primordial qi light pillars didn't stop and immediately charged at D Lin. I knew something was wrong. D Lin immediately gave up on attacking Ningyu. Instead, he threw out 2 more punches, which collided with the 3 yuan qi light pillars. Qi. 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 D Lin was indeed a mid-heavenly supreme. The 3 punches he threw out shattered the 3 yuan qi light pillars at the same time. Ha ha, do you really think you can kill me with these random attacks? D Lin let out an angry roar after destroying the primordial qi light pillars. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. In the face of absolute power, all tricks are useless. Break. D Lin went crazy and tried to break the ternary formation. D Lin used all kinds of terrifying spells and attacked the ternary formation around him. Master Zhao, how long can your ternary formation trap D Lin? Ningyu asked as he looked at D Lin, who kept attacking the ternary formation. A few martial artists appeared next to Ningyu. Master Xingyun, Master Zhao, Golden Arowana King, Bada, Fairy Yunxi, and Palace Master Baihua. Hearing Ningyu's words, Master Zhao said in a deep voice, "It can trap a mid-heavenly supreme martial artist for about 3 hours." 3 hours? Ningyu frowned slightly and started to think of a countermeasure. D Lin was a mid-heavenly supreme. Even if the ternary formation could trap him for a short time, it couldn't defeat him like D Gang. In other words, within these 3 hours, Ningyu had to think of a way to deal with D Lin. Otherwise, when the ternary formation was broken, the entire giant shield city would be plunged into misery and suffering. After all, there wasn't a single person in Giant Shield City who could fight against a mid-stage Sky Supreme. Can we keep him in the Tower of Ascension? Seeing Ningyu's expression, Grandmaster Xing Yun couldn't help saying, even heavenly sovereigns like the God Emperor Palace's ancestor and the Jin clan's ancestor can be imprisoned in the Tower of Ascension. In my opinion, Di Lin can also be imprisoned in the Tower of Ascension. The Emperor Palace ancestor and the Jin family ancestor are only early heavenly sovereigns, and they're already under control. It's not a problem to keep them in the Tower of Ascension. Ning Yu shook his head. Di Lin is different. The ternary formation can only trap him, not control him. There's only one way to keep him in the Tower of Ascension, and that's to control him. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Master Xing Yun and the rest fell silent. To control a middle stage heavenly supreme? That was an almost impossible task. Strictly speaking, Di Su and Jin Bo's strength was only sealed, and they weren't under their control. They could control their lives, but they couldn't order them to do anything. It was already so difficult to control an early heavenly supreme, and now they wanted to control a mid-heavenly supreme? Wasn't that a fool's dream? It's not like there's no way. Seeing the dejected look on Master Xing Yun and the rest, Ning Yu said, as long as we can heavily injure Di Lin, with the help of the few of you, we can definitely control him. The most important thing is how to heavily injure Di Lin. The Golden Arowana King said with a solemn expression. At this time, even the usually talkative Golden Arowana King became silent. No one was clearer than him about the destructive power of a mid-stage heavenly supreme. In the past, an early heavenly supreme Golden Arowana King had appeared in the Golden Arowana King clan. At that time, that Golden Arowana King ruled over a large area of the Ruo Shui River, forcing the other Golden Arowanas to lose their footing. In the end, one Golden Arowana King swallowed a medicinal pill and temporarily raised his cultivation to mid-heavenly supreme. In just one move, that early heavenly supreme Golden Arowana King was killed. As far as the Golden Arowana King knew, a mid-heavenly supreme of the human race couldn't be compared to the Golden Arowana clan, but a mid-heavenly supreme of the human race definitely had terrifying destructive power. Chapter 1559. Trap. I told you, it's not like there's no way. Ning Yu's face was extremely solemn. He looked at Fairy Yun Shi and said, Tua, he is a demon spirit realm initial stage Sky Supreme. As long as we throw him into the ternary formation and control him to self-destruct, I don't believe that Di Lin can withstand it. Whoosh. Ning Yu's words made Fairy Yun Shi and the rest's faces turn ugly. Make a Sky Supreme self-destruct? This was the city gate of Giant Shield City. The self-destruction of a Sky Supreme would definitely affect Giant Shield City. By then, even if Giant Shield City wasn't blasted into ruins, it wouldn't be far from it. I object. Fairy Yun, she said without hesitation. A Sky Supreme self-destruct is a serious matter. We can't make a rash decision. I need to discuss this with the old ancestor. As she spoke, Fairy Yun Shi's figure flashed and she entered Giant Shield City. Suit yourself. Ning Yu shrugged. He wasn't in a rush. There were still 3 hours before Di Lin broke the ternary formation. In these 3 hours, Ning Yu had another thing to do. Law of space, bring Xie over. Ning Yu's mind stirred, and he started to connect with the laws of space. Whoosh. As soon as Ning Yu's voice landed, the law of space moved and appeared with Xie. Di Ling Tian. Grandmaster Xing Yun and the rest's faces changed when they saw the law of space. They immediately surrounded the law of space. As soon as Ning Yu gave the order, the law of space would be blasted into a pile of sand. Don't be like this. I might be Di Ling Tian, but I've already forsaken the darkness for the light. The law of space wouldn't expose the fact that it was the law of space. He quickly waved his hand. Di Lin and Di Gang, those two trash, actually want to go against the gods? I think they must be tired of living. Cut the crap. Toss Evil One over to me. Then, you obediently squat on the other side. Ning Yu did not want to talk nonsense with the law of space. His time was limited. In 3 hours' time, he had to force out the cultivation method of evil's myriad incarnations. Ning Yu made up his mind. If Evil One refused to speak, he would use a secret technique to devour his memories. If it was before, Ningyu would not have dared to swallow Xie Yi's soul power. After all, Xie Yi was a peak expert of the Pill Puppet clan. It was only because he cultivated the 1,000 freedom transformations that his strength had dropped. As long as he was given a chance, he would definitely be able to make a comeback. Master Xingyun, I need you to use your soul power to suppress Xie Yi. I want to devour his memory. Ningyu did not want to beat around the bush, so he said to Master Xingyun directly, "Without my permission, do not let Evil One use his soul power." "No problem." Master Xingyun nodded. In his opinion, using soul power to control Xie Yi wasn't a big deal. But Ningyu's next words made Master Xingyun's face turn serious. Ningyu turned to the golden arowana fish king and said solemnly, "Seal Xie Yi's yuanqi. Remember, do not let him use any of it." Roger. Although he had many questions, he knew that he only needed to follow Ningyu's instructions. There was no need to ask anything else. "Master Zhao, I will give you an hour to set up a soundproof array." Ningyu looked at Master Zhao and said in a low voice, "No problem." The moment Ningyu's voice fell, Master Zhao started to get busy. Setting up a soundproof array was not a problem for Master Zhao. He only needed a few minutes to set it up. But looking at Ningyu's serious face, Master Zhao knew that the soundproof array Ningyu needed was special. Other than Ningyu and Xie Yi, no one else could hear it, including himself. Swish, 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 swish. With Ningyu and Xie Yi in the center, Master Zhao began to focus on setting up the soundproof array. Time always passes unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. In this hour, Master Zhao only did one thing. That was to set up a soundproof array for Ningyu. Done. After an hour of work, Master Zhao finally set up the soundproof array. Very good. Ningyu slightly unleashed his perception and then nodded, expressing his satisfaction. With Ningyu's current strength, he could not set up a soundproof array that could block out Sky Supremes. However, Grandmaster Zhao was different. His strength was a whole level higher than Ningyu's. Naturally, he could set up a formation that could isolate Sky Supremes. Let's begin. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu looked at Xie Yi and said, "Tell me the chant for the art of infinite transformation and I will spare your life. I will let you be my follower." "Don't even think about it." Xie Yi was furious and shouted, "Even if I self-destruct, I won't tell you. Just wait for the 1,000 free embodiment technique to disappear with me." "Hee, that's not up to you." Smiling faintly, Ningyu unleashed his powerful soul power and entered Xie Yi's mind. Ningyu's method was simple. He was devouring Xie Yi's memories. The intense pain in his mind caused Xie Yi to go crazy, and a hysterical scream came from his mouth. Evil One wanted to resist, but his soul power and Yuan Qi were being controlled. Right now, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He wanted to, but he didn't have the strength. Pucci. Looking at Ningyu devouring his memories, Xie Yi was so angry that he spat out blood, his face green. "I gave you a chance. You didn't know how to cherish it." Ningyu shrugged and continued to devour. Xie Yi was the absolute hope of the Pill Puppet clan, and his position in the clan was extremely high. After devouring a portion of Xie Yi's memories, Ningyu learned many secrets. This included the stronghold of the Pill Puppet clan in the Sky Demon region, where there were more pill puppets, and where their resources were stored. All of this information was kept by Ningyu. As for the trivial things in Xie Yi's life, Ningyu chose to filter them out. Or else, Xie Yi's memories were enough to turn Ningyu into an idiot. The art of infinite transformation is indeed powerful. Each clone is a part of my life, an experience. Ningyu was secretly relieved. Luckily, he had lived 2 lives and his brain was bigger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to handle all of Xie Yi's memories. Found it. After a full 10 minutes, Ning Yu finally found useful information in Xie Yi's memories. Decades ago, Xie Yi obtained the art of infinite transformation. As for how he obtained it, even Xie Yi's memories were blurry. If Xie Yi himself didn't know, then Ning Yu definitely wouldn't know. The main character is here. Suddenly, Ning Yu's face was filled with ecstasy. Chapter 1560. Red Devil's request. The art of boundless embodiment had 3 stages. The first stage was the beginner stage, also known as the beginner stage. As long as one could cultivate 100 doppelgangers and use a special method to devour them, then one would have succeeded in the beginner stage. The second stage was the 10,000 stage. This stage was easy to understand. In other words, one had to cultivate up to 10,000 doppelgangers and be able to control each doppelganger's movement. This stage was extremely difficult to cultivate. Throughout history, the number of martial artists who had successfully cultivated this stage could not be counted on one hand. As for the third stage, it was even more terrifying. Embodiment transformation. The third stage was called embodiment transformation, also known as embodiment transformation. The literal meaning was hard to understand, but Ning Yu was very clear. Embodiment transformation was to condense thousands of doppelgangers into 3 doppelgangers. One represented the past, one represented the present, and one represented the future. The most heaven-defying part of the embodiment transformation was the future doppelganger. Because in the past, Ning Yu's strength was weaker. Now, Ning Yu's strength was not strong either. Although the future was full of variables, the future doppelgangers formed by the art of boundless embodiment would be much stronger than they were now. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as insane and terrifying. Each stage is harder than the last. No wonder Xie Yi couldn't even complete the first stage. After devouring Xie Yi's memories, Ning Yu took in a deep breath. The art of boundless embodiment transformation was a synonym for terrifying. From Xie Yi's memories, Ning Yu also learned a terrifying truth. Out of 10,000 peerless geniuses who cultivated the myriad embodiment technique, only a few could successfully cultivate the first stage. As for the second stage, there were only 3 in history. However, not a single one had reached the final stage of cultivation. At least from Xie Yi's memories, Ning Yu did not find any clues. Xie Yi, I'm giving you one last chance. Submit to me. Ning Yu did not kill Xie Yi immediately. Instead, he retracted his soul power and said, as long as you submit to me willingly, I can consider letting you live. I. Xie Yi sat on the ground like a dead dog. His breathing was weak and his eyes were dim. Having one's memories forcibly devoured by someone else was extremely damaging to one's body. Even if Xie Yi was a 4th-grade Earth sovereign, he couldn't bear it. What? You don't want to submit to me? Looking at Mo Yin, Ning Yu frowned. Since you don't want to submit to me, I will send you to hell. Actually, Ning Yu really wanted Xie Yi to stay. Because Xie Yi was the king of the Pill Puppet Clan, his position in the Pill Puppet Clan was extremely high. In the future, he would definitely encounter experts from the Pill Puppet Clan. When the time came, he could use Evil One as his trump card. It would definitely have an unexpected effect. However, even though Ning Yu didn't want to kill Xie Yi, if Xie Yi didn't do anything, Ning Yu would have to kill him. As the saying goes, weeds will grow again if the roots are not removed. Ning Yu wanted to keep Xie Yi, but he didn't want to keep a troublemaker like Xie Yi. I choose to submit to you. Seeing that Ning Yu wanted to kill him, Xie Yi roared with all his might. Xie Yi wasn't a fool. Only by staying alive would he have a chance of survival. Now you want to submit to me? It's too late. Ning Yu shrugged and flicked his wrist. In an instant, the red demon sword appeared in his hand and he slashed at Xie Yi's head. Wait! However, before the red demon sword could land on Xie Yi's head, an anxious voice entered Ning Yu's ears. Hearing this, Ning Yu immediately stopped. The one who spoke was none other than the Red Demon's sword. In this period of time, the Red Demon's sword had been hiding in the Red Demon's sword. At first, Ningyu thought that the Red Demon's sword was hiding in the Red Demon's sword because of his and the Dark Emperor's rapid increase in strength. But recently, Ningyu realized that the Red Demon's sword was hiding not because of his inferiority, but because he was doing something big. After the relentless efforts of the Red Demon's sword, he finally broke through the entire Red Demon's sword. One had to know that Ningyu had entered the space within the Red Demon's sword before. At that time, Ningyu discovered that there were several spaces within the Red Demon's sword, and there seemed to be a secret in the deepest part. But since then, Ningyu didn't have the time to investigate, so the matter was left unsettled. Some time ago, after the Red Demon's sword's strength increased, he began to open up the space within the Red Demon's sword. Who would have thought that after a period of hard work, the space within the Red Demon's sword was actually opened up by the Red Demon's sword? Why, is serene useful to you? Ningyu's mind shook as he began to communicate with the Red Demon. I discovered that in the deepest part of the Red Demon's sword, there is an ancient array. In front of the array there is a stone tablet. There are 2 words carved on the stone tablet. Taking a deep breath, the Red Demon said in a low voice, Dan Chi. Dan Chi? Hearing the Red Demon's words, Ningyu was slightly taken aback at first, then he hurriedly said, could it be that the array is suppressing an unparalleled expert of the Dan Chi clan? There was a stone tablet in front of the array, and the words, Dan Chi, were carved on it. Anyone would think that the array was suppressing a Dan Chi. Ningyu was no exception. He thought so too. According to my observation, 80% of it is a Dan Chi, said the Red Demon. What do you want serene for? Do you want serene to break the array? Ningyu asked curiously. I want serene's blood because the stone tablet in front of the array not only has the words Dan Chi carved on it, but there is also a small line of words. The Red Demon continued, the meaning of the small line of words is easy to understand. Every once in a while, the blood of the Dan Chi clan has to be dripped into the stone tablet. Otherwise, the array will be broken. The Dan Chi are not the same as humans. Humans have blood, but the Dan Chi clan has no blood. Ningyu's expression was extremely solemn. Unless it is a king of the Dan Chi clan, like serene, only they can have blood. Something that requires the blood of the Dan Chi clan to suppress must be extremely terrifying. The blood on the stone tablet is already very thin. If we wait any longer, I am afraid that something will go wrong with the array. The Red Demon did not hide anything from Ningyu. He said, you can enter the Red Demon's sword and take a look before you make a decision. There is no need. How can I not trust you? Ningyu waved his hand and grabbed serene. Ignoring serene's resistance, he threw serene into the Red Demon's sword. Oh yes, it is best that you do not use the Red Demon's sword for now. Ever since I opened the space inside the Red Demon's sword, I realized that the Red Demon's sword is evolving towards a higher level. After leaving these words behind, the Red Devil completely disappeared without a trace. The Dark Emperor is in seclusion, and so is the Red Demon. Ningyu shrugged and shrugged. Looks like I will be in seclusion too, voila. Chapter 1561. Falling Out. Looking at Fairy Yun Shi and Xie flying towards him, Ningyu's face was filled with helplessness. The ternary formation could only trap Di Lin for 3 hours. Only an hour had passed, and Fairy Yun Shi and Xie had already appeared. It didn't make sense. Originally, Ningyu thought that Fairy Yun Shi and Xie would definitely come at the last moment to negotiate with him. But now it seemed that he was wrong. Ningyu, are you planning to use the self-destruction of a Sky Supreme to deal with Di Lin? When Xie appeared, he did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. There are 2 difficulties in this matter. Firstly, the self-destruction of a heavenly sovereign is extremely powerful, and even the giant shield city might be affected. so we have to think twice before we act. Second, Di Lin is a peerless expert from God Emperor Palace. If we kill him here, the consequences will be unimaginable. How could Ning Yu not know what Xie was talking about? Putting everything aside, he had to analyze Xie's two problems. Which one of them was a problem? First, although the self-destruction of a Sky Supreme was powerful, Giant Shield City had a peerless killing array. As long as the peerless killing array was activated, Giant Shield City would definitely be safe. As for the second problem, it was a little nonsensical. They're coming to kill you, and you're still being kind and benevolent? Do you have to wait for someone to place a knife on your neck before you come to your senses? Or, will you still smile at them when they chop off your head? Of course, Ning Yu wouldn't tell Xie what he was thinking. He crossed his arms in front of his chest. Don't talk nonsense with me. Tell me, what do you want? Ha ha ha, heroes come from the young. Since you've put it this way, I'll get straight to the point. Xie laughed awkwardly. He immediately lowered his voice and said, My idea is very simple. I want you to tell me the pill formula for the Jia pill so that I can have a good understanding of it. You really want the formula for the Jia pill? Ning Yu sneered in his heart, but he did not show any dissatisfaction on the surface. Instead, Ning Yu said generously, Bring me a pen and paper. I'll write the recipe for you now. Whoosh! Xie had been waiting for this moment. With a flick of his wrist, a sheepskin scroll flew towards Ning Yu. If I write the pill formula on a sheepskin scroll, it can be kept for a long time. Seeing that Ning Yu had caught the sheepskin scroll, Xie continued, As long as you write down the pill formula, I'll make Tua he explode immediately. Through Fairy Yunxi, Xie already knew what had happened. Xie was very confident, especially after seeing Di Lin in the ternary formation. He became even more confident. If Ning Yu wanted to kill Di Lin, he would need a heavenly supreme expert to self-destruct. Since they had a Sky Supreme on their side, Ning Yu had no choice but to beg him. He could take advantage of this opportunity to obtain the cultivation method for the Jia pill and not be under Ning Yu's control. With the Jia pill formula, I can find someone else to help me refine the pill and extend my lifespan by another 60 years. Thinking about how he would soon be able to obtain the pill formula for the Jia pill and extend his lifespan, Xie was a little excited. At the same time, a trace of energy appeared on Ning Yu's right fingertip. With a few swishes, he wrote down the pill formula for the Jia pill on the sheepskin scroll. However, Ning Yu only wrote down the first half of the pill formula. He did not write down the second half. Ning Yu was a person who could distinguish between good and evil. If others helped him, he would definitely repay them. If others wanted to cheat him, then he would smoothly cheat them back. Whoosh! With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu threw the sheepskin scroll to Xie. Xie hurriedly looked at the sheepskin scroll. Even Fairy Yun Shi and the palace mistress couldn't help but look at the sheepskin scroll. Damn it! When the three of them saw the three large words on the sheepskin scroll, they cursed at the same time. The first half. The three large words were reflected in their eyes. Xie and Fairy Yun Shi's faces were ugly. Especially Xie, who was on the verge of exploding. What he wanted was the complete formula for the Jia Zidan, not the first half of it. What are you trying to say? Taking a deep breath, Xie said in a solemn voice, I helped you out of goodwill, but not only did you not appreciate it, you even played me? I'm sorry, I didn't play you. Ning Yu shrugged and said, There are a few things that I need to make clear to you. Tua he wasn't captured by Fairy Yun Shi herself. If it wasn't for me, Grandmaster Xing Yun, and Mad Warrior, do you think you could have captured Tua he alive? Even if you guys helped, it would only be a small matter. It wouldn't be of much use. Xie's face was red, but he still argued. Don't forget that there are still 2 heavenly sovereigns in the Tower of Ascension. Ning Yu's brows raised as he looked at Xie, and an evil smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Even though I can't control them completely right now, I can make them explode at any time if I want to. Finishing his words, Ningyu walked towards the giant shield city without looking back. Ningyu only took a few steps before he stopped. What? Are you regretting it? If you're regretting it, you can. Seeing that Ningyu had stopped, Xiezei's face instantly lit up. Grandmaster Xingyun, what are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and pack up. We'll leave in half an hour. Ningyu didn't care if Xiezei was proud or not. His reproachful voice resounded. Di Lin is a middle-phase heavenly sovereign. When he breaks through the giant shield city and slaughters everyone, he'll definitely come after us. We have to hurry up and find a place to hide. Russell. Hearing Ningyu's voice, Grandmaster Xingyun and the rest instantly understood and flew towards the giant shield city. Ningyu was right. Staying here would only mean death. If they couldn't find a heavenly sovereign to self-destruct to deal with Di Lin, then they would be no different from fools. What a disappointment! When the Goldfish King passed by Xiezei, it did not forget to ridicule, someone's lifespan is coming to an end. Instead of staying at home to eat and wait for death, he actually came out to mess around. How pitiful, how pitiful! You. Xiezei's face was ashen. Being ridiculed by a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign in front of so many people, he instantly felt embarrassed and his body trembled from the anger. He initially wanted to teach a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign a lesson, but when he thought about how he only had 3 months left to live, the anger in his heart instantly dissipated. As the saying goes, a dying man's words are kind. Of course, this sentence was nonsense. Everyone knew that if Xiezei heavily injured the Goldfish King, he would definitely have to exhaust his remaining 3 months of lifespan. Chapter 1562. Chapter 1562. Chapter 1562. The Transaction. Ningyu, I'm willing to give 2 he to you. Xiezei gritted his teeth when he saw that Ningyu was about to enter Giant Shield City, and then he said hastily, but you have to promise me that you'll give me the second half of the formula after you kill Di Lin. Ningyu stopped moving slightly when he heard this. He turned around and stared at Xiezei with a spurious smile on his face, and then he said indifferently, I'm sorry, but I hate it when people negotiate with me. You're going too far. Xiezei finally exploded when he heard Ningyu. Xiezei's gaze was gloomy as he emanated his imposing aura, and it pressed down madly towards Ningyu as he said coldly, Don't forget that this is Giant Shield City. You must give the formula to me today. What are the 2 of you still standing there for? Quickly go over and surround Ningyu. Xiezei spoke furiously when he saw Fairy Yun Shi and the Flower Palace's master staring blankly. I'll let some people know who's in charge of Giant Shield City today. Swoosh. Swoosh. As soon as Xiezei finished speaking, 2 figures flashed over madly and obstructed Ningyu's path. Fairy Yun Shi and the Flower Palace's master. They were exactly Fairy Yun Shi and the Flower Palace's master. Xiezei was an ancestor of the Flower Palace, so they had no other choice when facing Xiezei's orders. As for Taoist GMO, his expression was gloomy and indeterminate, and he didn't stop Ningyu at the first possible moment. Truthfully speaking, Taoist GMO really admired Ningyu. He'd chosen to stand with Giant Shield City when Giant Shield City was in danger, and Xiezei's actions clearly showed that he was trying to get rid of Giant Shield City when he was dead. Even though Taoist GMO was a member of the Flower Palace, he didn't want to be associated with a traitor like Xiezei. Swish. Swish. He thought for a moment before he gritted his teeth and walked over to Ningyu's side, and then he stood by Ningyu's side. Taoist GMO's actions were very obvious. He wanted to help Ningyu get rid of his relationship with the Flower Palace. Ha ha ha, Taoist Master GMO, aren't you afraid that someone will take revenge on you by standing on the same side as me? Ningyu burst into laughter. Taoist GMO was a pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereign, and he also had powerful trump cards. In a sense, when Taoist GMO went berserk, he could contend with ordinary heavenly sovereigns. It just so happened that Supreme Palace was short of manpower, so the addition of Master Devil was like a shot in the arm. Taoist G Tian Saint and has always been doing things. Since Emperor Zedong Shan. There was a hint of anger in Taoist Master G Mo's voice as he said coldly, "Since I've decided to join you, I won't be afraid of any difficulties." Good. From now on, you are the Hall Master of Supreme Palace's 5th Branch Hall. As for the name of the branch hall, you will be the one to name it. Since Taoist GMO had decided to join Ningyu naturally wouldn't let him suffer a loss. The position of Hall Master of Supreme Palace's 5th branch was already very high in Supreme Palace. The only thing lacking was that Ningyu could only promise Taoist GMO the position of Hall Master for the time being. There was nothing substantial in it. "Thank you, Hall Master." Taoist GMO was overjoyed and hurriedly cupped his fist. The news of Ningyu establishing Supreme Palace had already spread in Giant Shield City. There were even some martial artists in Giant Shield City who had joined Supreme Palace. Taoist GMO had long wanted to join Supreme Palace, but it was inconvenient with Xieze around. Now that he saw Xieze's true colors, Taoist GMO instantly decided to join Supreme Palace. Taoist GMO originally wanted to start from the bottom, but who would have thought that Ningyu would promise him the position of Branch Hall Master, which made him overjoyed. "Taoist GMO, I think you're tired of living." Now that things had come to this, Xieze had nothing to worry about. In any case, he had already shed all pretense of cordiality with Ningyu. The two sides were about to fight for real. There was no point in worrying about this and that. "Xieze, don't think that I don't know that you want to spy on the Hall Master's pill recipe. I can tell you now that as long as I, Taoist GMO, am around, you can forget about hurting the Hall Master." Taoist GMO said coldly, not giving Xieze any face. "I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed." Xieze was so angry that his nose was crooked and his body was trembling. "What are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and take down Ningyu!" Xieze roared. "I'll see who dares." At this moment, Grandmaster Xingyun, the Golden Arowana King, and Bada all flew in front of Ningyu. Although Grandmaster Xingyun was only a Grade 8 Earth Supreme, his soul force was the strongest here. With his soul force, Grandmaster Xingyun could contend with a peak Grade 9 Earth Supreme. As for Bada and the Golden Arowana King, there was no need to even think about it. One was the king of the Golden Arowana Fish Clan, and the other was the king of the Bloodthirsty Wolf Clan. If the two of them joined forces, they might even have a chance to kill a Sky Supreme. "You're simply courting death by doing this." Seeing the Golden Arowana King and the others standing in front of Ningyu, Xieze calmed down to a frightening degree. Waving his hand, Xieze gestured for Fairy Yun Shi and the Palatial Mistress to retreat. Swish! Swish! Fairy Yun Shi and the Palatial Mistress instantly retreated to Xieze's side. "As far as I'm concerned, that Paragon Palace you founded is nothing more than a fart. There are countless powers in the Pill Formation continent that could slaughter your Paragon Palace. You have no idea how terrifying the Pill Formation continent is." The corner of Xieze's mouth rose. "If you dare to kill Dilin today, I can guarantee that the Emperor Palace will send a peerless expert to kill you tomorrow. The grudge between me and the Emperor Palace has nothing to do with you." Ningyu curled his lips and said, "If I don't want you here, there will be a place for me to stay. Let's meet again." Ningyu couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Xieze. Soon, Dilin would break the ternary formation. His top priority now was to leave this place as soon as possible and find a new place to set up a killing formation. He had to think of a way to get rid of Dilin instead of talking nonsense with Xieze. However, Xieze didn't seem to want to let Ningyu go. He said lazily, "There's actually no grudge between us. We can sit down and talk. The sovereign palace has just been established, so you will definitely need a large amount of yuan crystals, elixirs, and artifacts. The palatial mistress can provide you with those things. But the condition is that I have to tell you the elixir recipe, right? Ningyu obviously knew what Xieze was up to. His mind was filled with elixir recipes. Every word he said was for the sake of the elixir recipe. Otherwise, Xieze wouldn't have changed his attitude and become lazy and calm. Congratulations, you're right. Unfortunately, there's no prize. Xieze smiled and said, You give me the elixir recipe and I give you the elixirs and artifacts. Is that right? That's right, but there's something I don't understand. I hope you can explain it to me, Ningyu said with a frown. Instead, he fell into deep thought. After a while, Ningyu said, How about this? You surrender to me for 3 months. After 3 months, I will help you expel the goo poison in your body. Are you sure you want me to submit to you? Xieze asked. What's there to be uncertain about? My time is limited. I hope you can make a decision as soon as possible. Ningyu shrugged and said, All right. 3 months it is. Taking a deep breath, Xieze said, I will open my mind and let your soul force enter my consciousness to control me. Afterwards, Xieze closed his eyes and retracted his aura, looking like he was at the mercy of others. Xieze's actions not only made the Goldfish King and Grandmaster Xing Yun confused, but even Fairy Yun Shi and the Palace Master Bai Hua had no idea what he was planning. One must know that if Ningyu's soul force entered Xieze's consciousness, then Xieze's life would be in Ningyu's hands. Fairy Yun Shi and the Palace Master Bai Hua didn't think that such a stupid thing was possible. Xieze definitely had a trump card. Palace Master, what should we do if the old ancestor and Ningyu get into a conflict later? Are we really going to start a war with Ningyu? Fairy Yun Shi leaned slightly towards the palace mistress of the 100 Flowers Palace, and then she lowered her voice and said, No matter what, Ningyu has helped us so much. Wouldn't it be repaying kindness with enmity if we do this? Let's wait and see. The Palace Master Bai Hua said in a low voice. To be honest, the Palace Master Bai Hua didn't want to start a conflict with Ningyu. However, Xieze was the old ancestor of the 100 Flowers Palace, so she couldn't disobey him. As for whether or not she would start a war with Ningyu, the Palace Master Bai Hua didn't think about it for now. Things would eventually sort themselves out. She'd just take it one step at a time. No problem. The only person who wasn't nervous was probably Ningyu. Ningyu moved his feet and arrived in front of Xieze. He said indifferently, As long as you completely open your mind, I will immediately let my soul force enter your consciousness. Ha ha ha, heroes indeed come from the young. You even saw through this. Xieze smiled awkwardly. He then sat cross-legged on the ground and completely opened his mind. How dare you try to deceive the Palace Master? The Goldfish King cursed when he saw Xieze's actions. If it wasn't for Ningyu's sharp eyes, he would probably have been tricked by Xieze. It's fine. You guys step back. I want to have a good chat with him. Ningyu waved his hand and signaled the Goldfish King and the rest to step back for now. As for Ningyu himself, he sat cross-legged in front of Xieze and separated a wisp of soul force from his body into Xieze's consciousness. Good timing. Looking at the soul force flying towards him, the corner of Xieze's mouth unnaturally raised into a slight smile. However, Xieze hid it very well. He quickly concealed the smile on his face. Swoosh. In almost an instant, Ningyu's soul force entered Xieze's sea of consciousness. You want to control me? As soon as Ningyu's soul force entered Xieze's consciousness, Xieze revealed his true appearance. Whoosh! Overwhelming soul power surged from every part of Xieze's body and gathered in his sea of consciousness. Obviously, Ningyu's soul force was surrounded by Xieze's enormous soul force. You're cheating. Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. He said coldly, I want to perish together with you. Perish together? Ha ha ha, don't be naive. Using this wisp of soul force, I only need half an hour to control you. Xieze raised his head and laughed maniacally. Don't worry. You will wake up in half an hour. Then, listen to my orders obediently. Aren't you afraid that I will self-destruct this wisp of soul force? Ning Yu said indifferently. At this moment, Ning Yu's earlier panic had already disappeared. In exchange, he calmed down. Ning Yu's calm performance surprised Xieze a little. Seeing that he was about to be controlled by me, he could actually calm down? I call the shots in my consciousness. You'd better stop resisting. This way, I might give you a quick death and let you suffer less, Xieze said arrogantly. He did not put Ning Yu's words in his eyes at all. I'll give you one last chance. Stop resisting and let me control your consciousness. Chapter 1564. Chapter 1564. Chapter 1564. An old friend. Ning Yu felt that he was very kind. At the very least, Ning Yu felt that he was very kind to Xieze. Actually, he'd seen through Xieze's crafty scheme a long time ago. Xieze wouldn't swear a heavenly Tao oath at all, nor would he completely open his mind. The reason why Xieze pretended to open his mind and let his soul force enter his body was because Xieze wanted to control himself. Of course, Ning Yu was fearless. This was because Ning Yu had already thought of a countermeasure to deal with Xieze. If they were outside, Ning Yu wouldn't be able to contend against Xieze with his 9th grade human sovereign cultivation. But this was Xieze's sea of consciousness, and both sides were competing with soul force. In other words, it was a competition of foundation. You sure you don't have a fever? Hearing Ning Yu's words, Xieze's jaw dropped as if he had seen a ghost. You want me to give up? Is your brain rusty? In that case, you don't want to submit to me? Ning Yu didn't get angry. Instead, he said indifferently. Submit my ass. From the beginning to the end, I never intended to submit to you, Xieze said coldly. Looks like if I don't show you my power, you'll really think that I'm easy to bully. Voila! As his cold voice fell, Xieze's sea of consciousness turned berserk. Swish, 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 swish. Not long after, 4 flags suddenly appeared in Xieze's knowledge sea, firmly surrounding Ning Yu's soul power in the middle. These 4 are soul-controlling flags. As long as you distribute your soul force evenly among them, you will listen to my commands and become my slave. Xieze pointed at the 4 flags and said gloomily, I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Since it's like this, then don't blame me. AI. Ning Yu sighed softly and said, Come out. Come out, will you? Xieze was stunned by Ning Yu's words. Xiao. In the next moment, a bewitching flame suddenly shot out from Ning Yu's soul power. The speed of the flame was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed in front of a flag. Chi. What happened next caused Xieze's expression to change drastically. As soon as the flag came into contact with the flames, it quickly ignited and gave off a sizzling sound. What the hell is going on? The scene before him caused Xieze's expression to change greatly. He even had the urge to curse. His trump card was the 4 flags. He wanted to rely on the 4 flags to control Ning Yu's soul power. But now, he didn't know what kind of terrifying flame Ning Yu used to burn one of the flags. Stop, or I'll cripple your soul power. In a moment of desperation, Xieze controlled his soul power to fly towards Ning Yu's soul power. Xieze's goal was obvious. He wanted to control Ning Yu's soul force and force Ning Yu to retract his flames. Xiao. However, Xieze had obviously underestimated the power of the flames. Under Ning Yu's control, the flames turned around and rushed towards Xieze's soul power. The result was obvious. How could Xieze's soul power resist the burning of the flames? Very quickly, only a little bit was left. Stop! Seeing that the last bit of soul power was about to be burned, Xieze hurriedly said. Xieze already knew that he had met a tough opponent. He wanted to use the soul control flag to control Ningyu's soul power. Who would have thought that he would be completely suppressed by Ningyu? Moreover, the terrifying flames that Ningyu had displayed not only burned one of the soul control flags, but also burned most of his soul power. You want me to stop? Ningyu stared at Xieze and said, I seem to have heard someone say that they want to use the soul control flag to control my soul power. Looks like I have to cut the weeds and eliminate the root. No, no, no. Let's talk, Xieze hurriedly said. At this moment, Xieze appeared to be extremely terrified. Xieze was very clear that the flames that Ningyu executed were too terrifying. Wanting to destroy his sea of consciousness would be as easy as blowing off dust. If his sea of consciousness was crippled, his entire life would be over. Give me a reason not to kill you. Ningyu controlled the demonic lotus flames to return to him and said indifferently, There's only one chance. You have to grasp it well. As long as you don't kill me, I can swear a heavenly Tao oath and give the flower palace to you. You've just established Supreme Hall, so you definitely need magic treasures, medicinal pills, essence crystals, and even manpower. If you take over the flower palace, these problems will be easily solved. In his panic, Xieze even gave away the flower palace. After sending him out, Xieze was still not at ease and continued, Besides that, I'll go with you to the Thousand Leaf Empire's Jin clan and personally hold down the fort for you to prevent the rascals from becoming enemies with you. That's not a bad deal. Ningyu's brows knit together slightly as he muttered. Truthfully speaking, the two conditions that Xieze raised caused Ningyu to be very tempted. The Flower Palace was a top-rate power on the Pill Creation continent and even the Sky Devil region. Even though it had experienced a great battle and caused the Flower Palace to suffer heavy losses, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Flower Palace's current strength could still be ranked in the top few in the Pill Creation continent. When he saw that Ningyu was slightly tempted, Xieze hurriedly added, I know a few old friends on the Pill Creation continent. I can invite them over to help you deal with the Jin clan when you attack the Thousand Leaf Empire's Jin clan. You have old friends? Ningyu's brows raised, and his expression remained unchanged as he said, Who are they? Tell me about them. Xieze knew that he had said the wrong thing, but he had to answer Ningyu's question. After sorting out his thoughts, Xieze explained, Most of the people I know are injured. Some are poisoned, some have their souls damaged, and some have their bodies destroyed. In short, they are in terrible states. They can only come over to support you, but they can't help you fight. It's fine. We can delay the matter of going to the Jin clan for now. Think of a way to get your old friends to come over to Giant Shield City. I want to meet them. Ningyu wanted to meet Xieze's old friends. Xieze was a Peak Sky Supreme. One could imagine that his old friends were not inferior to him. From Xieze's expression, Ningyu could tell that Xieze wasn't lying. It was fine to be poisoned, have one's soul damaged, and even have one's body destroyed. What Ningyu needed was a guest elder. Supreme Hall had just been established, so they definitely needed some powerful cultivators to support them. Of course, the reason why Ningyu asked them to come over was because he had a certain level of confidence that he could cure them. Otherwise, there would be no point in asking them to come over. Sure. Hearing that Ningyu wanted to meet his old friends, Xieze's eyes flickered. He struggled internally for a while, then said, I'll contact them now. Try to convince them to come over. Right, before you contact them, I need to control you. The time limit is 3 months. Ningyu waved his hand, then controlled the demonic lotus flame to burn the remaining 3 soul control flags. After burning the soul control flags, Ningyu directly left the demonic lotus flame in Xieze's mind. Chapter 1565. Boom. Swish. After his soul power returned to his body, Ningyu opened his eyes and stood up. Swish. Seeing Ningyu open his eyes, Master Xingyun, the Golden Arowana King, and the others teleported to Ningyu's side. The Golden Arowana King hurriedly asked, "How did it go? Did you negotiate with that old man?" "See for yourself." Ningyu pointed at Xieze and said indifferently. Swish. Hearing this, the Golden Arowana King and the others shifted their gazes to Xieze. What's going on? Has he lost his mind? Is it because he's old that his brain isn't working? Xieze's actions caused the Golden Arowana King and Bada to reveal puzzled expressions. Xieze moved towards the Trinity formation and stared at Di Lin, who was within the formation. After staring at Di Lin for a full minute, Xieze turned to Fairy Yunxi and said, "Throw Tuo He into the Trinity formation and use him to self-destruct to kill Di Lin." Fairy Yunxi was slightly taken aback by Xieze's words. Although Fairy Yunxi also wanted to use Tuo He to self-destruct to kill Di Lin, she was still a little shocked to hear such words from Xieze's mouth. After recovering from her shock, Fairy Yunxi asked uncertainly, "Ancestor, are we really going to let Tuo He self-destruct? What are you talking about? Just do as I say. Don't ask so many questions," Xieze said coldly. Xieze's words caused Fairy Yunxi's body to tremble uncontrollably. The situation didn't seem right. Could it be that Xieze was really being controlled by Ningyu? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. After all, Ningyu appeared to be very calm, while Xieze's reaction was very strange and even a little angry. However, it wasn't convenient for Fairy Yunxi to ask about such things. She could only flick her wrist and throw Tuo He out of the jade bracelet. Bang! She waved her hands repeatedly and whipped Tuo He's back, sending him into the Trinity formation. "Patriarch, should we return to Giant Shield City first?" Fairy Yunxi wasn't stupid enough to activate Tuo He's spiritual force. She knew how powerful a Heavenly Supreme's self-destruction was. It could be said that if they chose to stay, there was an 80% chance that they would die here. Go! Xieze's figure flashed and he flew toward Giant Shield City immediately. Voila! Behind Xieze, Fairy Yunxi, Palace Mistress Bai Hua, and even Grandmaster Xingyun and Ningyu were rushing towards Giant Shield City. None of the martial artists in this area were fools. The self-destruction of a heavenly sovereign wasn't something that they could endure. "What do you want to do? I'm a peerless expert of the Emperor Palace. If you kill me, you'll definitely offend the Emperor Palace. If you offend the Emperor Palace, you'll all die." Seeing Ningyu's party charging towards the Giant Shield City and throwing a heavenly sovereign into the ternary array, how could Di Lin not guess what Ningyu's party was trying to do? It wasn't in Di Lin's character to sit and wait for death. He raised his head and yelled, "Let me go now, and I'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, how dare you be so stubborn even when you're about to die? You're really courting death." Before Di Lin could finish his words, Ningyu's cold snort resounded from the Giant Shield City. "If I dare to kill you today, I'll kill my way to the Emperor Palace tomorrow and flatten the Emperor Palace." You. Di Lin stuttered when he heard Ningyu's arrogant words. "What about you? You're even stuttering. You're hopeless." Ningyu rolled his eyes and said to Fairy Yunxi, "It's about time. If we don't act now, Di Lin might break the ternary array." Fairy Yunxi did not listen to Ningyu's words. Instead, she shifted her gaze towards Xieze, wanting to seek his opinion. "Ningyu's words are my words." Xieze didn't say much, but his meaning was clear. "All right." Fairy Yunxi gritted her teeth and activated the soul power in Tuo He's body. Rumble! With a loud sound, Tuo He, who was in the ternary array, suddenly exploded. Swoosh! 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 After Tuo He self-detonated, an extremely terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions with the ternary formation as the center. Crack! Crack! The ground caved in and a huge pit appeared. Whoosh! 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 The surrounding void cracked open and the space became extremely unstable. Swoosh! As Ning Yu and the rest watched in shock, a powerful shock wave rushed toward the top of the giant shield city. Fortunately, before the shock wave reached the top of the giant shield city, the ultimate killing array showed its power. This terrifying shockwave was reflected back by the supreme killing array. Swoosh! 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 After the first shockwave was blocked by the peerless killing array, dozens of other shockwaves appeared, all rushing towards Ning Yu and the others above the city gate tower. What's going on? This change was clearly out of Ning Yu and the rest's expectations. Although Tuahi's self-destruction was powerful, it shouldn't have been directed in the same direction. There was clearly something fishy going on. It's Di Lin. Ning Yu's eyes were very sharp. He quickly discovered the figure hidden in the spatial vortex. Although he was at the center of Tuahi's self-destruction, Di Lin was a mid-sky supreme expert. He couldn't have been killed so easily. Since he hadn't died, Di Lin would definitely take revenge. Therefore, he tried his best to control the shock wave from Tuahi's self-destruction and directed it toward Ning Yu and Xieze. Ha ha ha, even if I die, I'll drag a few of you down with me. Di Lin's body gradually appeared from the void, and he threw his head back and laughed wildly. Di Luo's clothes were tattered, and only a few strands of his hair were left. Moreover, there were 3 ghastly wounds on Di Lin's forehead. One could even see his bones. Blood flowed from the ghastly wounds, indicating that Di Lin had suffered an irreparable injury. Di Lin, you old fool, do you think you can hurt us? Xieze's eyes widened as he glared at Di Lin and said coldly, Today, I'll burn your bones and scatter your ashes. Xieze was furious. He had just been controlled by Ning Yu, and now he was being threatened by Di Lin. He couldn't take it anymore. Since he couldn't take it anymore, he couldn't vent his anger on Ning Yu, so he could only vent his anger on Di Lin. Attack until Di Lin can't speak anymore. Xieze was the Flower Palace's old ancestor after all. Fairy Yuan Shi and the palace master naturally couldn't ignore his anger. Whoosh! The two of them flew in 2 different directions and only stopped when they were a dozen meters away from Xieze. Then, they all unleashed their trump cards in unison. They bypassed the peerless killing array and launched terrifying attacks at Di Lin. Crack! Under the bombardment of the huge shock wave, the peerless killing array in front of Ning Yu and the others actually shook a little, emitting a crisp, cracking sound. This situation shocked the Golden Arowana King and the others. Ning Yu, this ultimate killing array won't be destroyed, right? Chapter 1566. Kill. If the peerless killing formation could be destroyed so easily, we would have been killed by the demon spirit realm long ago. How could we have survived until now? Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating that the Goldfish King didn't need to worry. In fact, Ning Yu was right. If the self-destruction of a mere Heavenly Supreme could destroy the peerless killing formation, then the demon spirit realm mid-stage Heavenly Supreme would definitely capture a few Heavenly Supremes and have them self-destruct to destroy the peerless killing formation. Furthermore, the shockwave from Tuahi's self-destruction landed on Di Lin. Just the remaining shockwave alone couldn't pose a threat to the peerless killing formation. That's good. When the shockwave dissipates, I'll go and capture him myself. The Goldfish King nodded, then said viciously, He actually dared to threaten us. I think he must be tired of living, rumble. Before the Golden Arowana Fish King could finish his sentence, a huge shockwave surged towards him. The powerful shockwave forced the Goldfish King back several steps. Fortunately, the peerless killing formation had formed a barrier that blocked the shockwave. Otherwise, the Goldfish King would have been severely injured. Didn't you say that the self-destruction of a Heavenly Supreme couldn't destroy the peerless killing formation? If I hadn't reacted in time, I would have been heavily injured. The sudden change made the Goldfish King's expression turn ugly. He had been pushed back by the shockwave because he had been careless. If he had been prepared, he wouldn't have been affected no matter how powerful the shockwave was. Isn't the peerless killing formation still intact? Ningyu spread his hands. You go over there and attack Di Lin with Fairy Yunxi and the others. Remember, don't let Di Lin self-destruct. Although the self-destruction of an initial stage Heavenly Supreme couldn't destroy the peerless killing formation, the self-destruction of a mid-stage Heavenly Supreme had a high chance of destroying the peerless killing formation. Even a cornered dog would jump over a wall. Di Lin was even more anxious than a dog. If Di Lin felt that there was no hope of survival, he would definitely self-destruct to destroy the peerless killing formation. Understood. The Golden Arowana Fish King nodded and flew towards Fairy Yunxi. Although the Golden Arowana Fish King's words were lacking, it wouldn't do anything out of line when it came to matters of right and wrong. He had taken it as Ning Yu's order to stop Di Lin from self-destructing. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing the Golden Arowana Fish King's actions, Bada, Grandmaster Xingyun, and Master Demon did not stand idly by. They all dashed forward and unleashed powerful techniques to attack Di Lin. Poochie. As the crowd attacked, Di Lin instantly felt a terrifying pressure. Spurting out a large mouthful of blood, Di Lin's face turned extremely cold and gloomy. Good, very good. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The next moment, Di Lin's body swelled up. Caw-caw. As Di Lin's body became bigger, crisp, cracking sounds rang out. It was obvious that these sounds were the sounds of Di Lin's bones shattering. Self-destruct. At that moment, Di Lin made a bold decision. I want all of you to die with me. Knowing that he had no hope of survival, Di Lin's face turned hideous. It's worth it to use my body to break the supreme killing formation and injure all of you. Stop him. Ning Yu's expression changed drastically when he saw Di Lin's actions, and he said hurriedly. Although the supreme killing formation was terrifying, it had just gone through a huge battle and could not withstand the self-destruction of a mid-stage Sky Supreme expert. Once Di Lin self-destructed, there was a high chance that the supreme killing formation would be destroyed. Rumble. Even without Ning Yu's reminder, the Golden Arowana Fish King and the others had already unleashed their trump cards. The Golden Arowana Fish King, Fairy Yunxi, Palace Master Bai Hua, Bada, Grandmaster Xingyun, and Master Demon. They did not hold back at all. All kinds of techniques flew towards Di Lin. The current situation was very clear. The only way to stop Di Lin's self-destruction was to kill him before he self-destructed. It was easy to imagine how difficult it would be to kill Di Lin with a spell from such a long distance. We have to leave Giant Shield City to kill Di Lin. On the city gate tower, Ning Yu saw everything clearly. If they did not leave Giant Shield City, they only had a 1% chance of killing Di Lin before he self-destructed. If they left Giant Shield City, they would have at least a 50% chance of killing Di Lin. But who to send out was a big problem. Because the cultivators who went out also had only a 50% chance of surviving. I'll go. Ning Yu was not the only one who could see through it. In the distance, Fairy Yunxi's expression turned grave. Lend me the 100 Flowers fan. I'll go out and kill Di Lin. Since the 100 Flowers fan had already been given to Ning Yu, Fairy Yunxi would have to borrow it from Ning Yu if she needed it. Be careful. Ning Yu thought for a few seconds, then flicked his wrist and threw the 100 Flowers fan to Fairy Yunxi. Pa! Catching the 100 Flowers fan, Fairy Yunxi waved her hands and shouted, "Open!" Chi-chi! A crisp sound rang out. Then, the space in front of Fairy Yunxi split open, and Fairy Yunxi dove in. Fairy Yunxi did not immediately break open the killing formation and leave. This was because she knew that once she did so, Di Lin would definitely take advantage of this rare opportunity. At that time, the consequences would be unthinkable. That was why Fairy Yunxi first broke through the void, breaking through the peerless killing formation and leaving. Doing so would allow her to avoid Di Lin. Whoosh! 3 seconds later. Fairy Yun, she appeared outside Giant Shield City. Die! After leaving Giant Shield City, Fairy Yun, she did not dare to be careless. She waved the 100 flowers fan in her hand, and several beams of cold light shot out. Swish! 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 These beams of cold light were very fast. In almost an instant, they arrived in front of Di Lin. Under Di Lin's horrified gaze, they were aimed at his head. These beams of cold light had all been shot out from the 100 flowers fan and were extremely powerful. If Di Lin was unlucky enough to be hit, he would most likely die on the spot. Swish! Unfortunately, Di Lin was lucky. Before the cold light could hit his head, he had already given up on attacking the killing formation. Instead, he used the aftermath of Tuahi's self-destruction to block in front of him. Bang! The cold light and the aftermath collided, and both disappeared. As for Di Lin, he fled in 2 different directions. Trying to leave? Not so easy. Seeing that Di Lin wanted to leave, Fairy Yunshi's figure flashed, and with a few leaps, she blocked Di Lin's path of retreat. Whoosh! The 100 flowers fan in her hand suddenly opened, and Fairy Yun, she controlled it to quickly sweep towards Di Lin's neck. In the next instant, a pillar of blood burst out of Di Lin's neck, and he spat out blood. Chapter 1567. A New Crisis. Huff. Seeing Di Lin being killed by Fairy Yunshi, all the cultivators on the city wall let out a long sigh of relief. To be honest, Di Lin's previous actions had truly frightened them. Di Lin was a mid-heavenly supreme expert. Once he self-destructed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ning Yu, Di Lin and Di Gang are both peerless experts of the Emperor Palace. The news of their deaths should reach the Emperor Palace soon. In my opinion, we shouldn't stay here for long. We should leave this place as soon as possible and head to the Flower Palace to lie low. Xieze turned around and looked at Ningyu. Although the Giant Shield City has the peerless slaughtering array, it's rumored that there are late-phase heavenly sovereigns in the Divine Emperor Palace. The peerless slaughtering array shouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of a late-phase heavenly sovereign. If we go to the Flower Palace now, what will happen to the Giant Shield City when the experts of the Emperor Palace come? Ningyu stared at Xieze and said, "The Giant Shield City is only a subsidiary of the Flower Palace," Xieze said without any hesitation when he heard Ningyu's words. However, when Xieze saw Ningyu's face gradually turning dark, he immediately changed his words and said, "The Emperor Palace's main target is us. They won't waste any effort to break the supreme killing formation. We'll stay in the Giant Shield City and not go anywhere." Ningyu waved his hand and faintly said, "We'll deal with it when it comes." The Emperor Palace also has enemies in the Pellet Formation continent, so it's impossible for them to send their strongest expert over. At most, they can only send a few heavenly sovereigns over. With the supreme killing formation, it doesn't matter how many people from the Emperor Palace come. In the Pill Formation continent and even in the Sky Demon territory, the Emperor Palace was a sect that everyone hated. The Emperor Palace, the Blood God Palace, and the Corpse Sect were the 3 most notorious forces in the Sky Demon territory. It's better to be safe than sorry. I only have 3 months to live. If a late Heavenly Supreme comes, we'll all die. Xieze was still worried that a late-stage Heavenly Supreme would come. If a late-stage Heavenly Supreme appeared, unless he burned the last 3 months of his lifespan, no one in the Giant Shield City could contend with a late-stage Heavenly Supreme. You don't have to worry about that. I'll give you a list of medicinal ingredients later. Grab a few portions of medicinal ingredients according to the list. I'll brew a medicinal liquid for you temporarily to extend your lifespan by a few months. Ningyu's tone was flat, as if he was talking about something unimportant. The speaker didn't mean anything, but the listener was listening attentively. Xie eyes widened in disbelief. Ning Yu could actually brew a life-prolonging potion. This matter drove Xie crazy. Xie only had 3 months left to live. After 3 months, he would die, and even the gods wouldn't be able to save him. Ning Yu's words gave him the feeling that there was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. I'll give you half an hour to deal with the situation here. Come to the City Lord's Mansion's meeting hall to find me in half an hour. Since Di Lin had been dealt with, there was no reason for Ning Yu to stay. He gave a signal to the Law of Space beside him and walked towards the City Lord's mansion. Russell! Russell! The Law of Space knew that Ning Yu must have something to talk to him about, so he followed behind Ning Yu and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Who is Ning Yu? Could he be a genius descendant of some great family? Xie's brows revealed an extremely grave expression as he watched Ning Yu leave. In Xie's view, the fact that Ning Yu could establish the Sovereign Palace with a 9th-grade human sovereign cultivation and control pinnacle 9th-grade Earth sovereigns like the Golden Arowana Fish King and Bada meant that Ning Yu must have a deep background. Otherwise, Xie wouldn't believe that Ning Yu could achieve all of this even if he was beaten to death. Naturally, Xie wasn't concerned about Ning Yu's background. Xie was only concerned about a single thing, and that was whether Ning Yu could refine an elixir that could extend one's lifespan. As for other matters, Xie didn't want to be concerned, nor could he be. Fairy Yunxi, Palace Master 100 Flowers, the two of you are responsible for cleaning up the battlefield. I'll be back soon. Xie glanced at the medicinal ingredients on the list, and then he hurriedly instructed Fairy Yunxi and the 100 Flower Palace's mistress. After that, his figure flashed and flew towards the 100 Flower Palace. Although Xie wasn't an alchemist, he had some understanding of the herbs on the list. There were a few precious herbs on the list that Ning Yu had given him. They were so precious that they couldn't be found in the giant shield city and could only be found in the 100 Flowers Palace. That was why Xie was flying towards the Flower Palace without stopping. This Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Master 100 Flowers looked at each other as they watched Xie's departing figure. They could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. Xie's actions didn't seem to make sense. Could it be that Xie was already under Ning Yu's control? Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Master 100 Flowers' hearts skipped a beat when they thought of this. If Xie was really under Ning Yu's control, then wouldn't the entire 100 Flowers Palace become Ning Yu's property? The more they thought about it, the more Fairy Yunxi and the Palace Master 100 Flowers felt that it was possible. What should we do now? Fairy Yunxi took a deep breath and said to the Palace Master 100 Flowers, "The Patriarch seems to be a little abnormal. I'll handle the battlefield here. Find a way to contact Yunmu and the Talisman Supremacy and ask them to use a secret technique to contact the Old Prophet. We must get the Old Prophet to make a trip to the giant shield city within 3 days." The Palace Master 100 Flowers said with a solemn expression. "No problem." Fairy Yunxi nodded her head. "Get someone to clean up the outside and send a few high-rank Earth sovereigns out to patrol. If there's any commotion, immediately inform me." After leaving those words behind, the Palace Master 100 Flowers tore through space and entered. The Palace Master 100 Flowers flew in the same direction as Xie, towards the 100 Flowers Palace. At the same time, in the conference hall of the City Lord's Mansion, the Law of Space had told Ning Yu everything he knew about the Emperor Palace. After listening to the Law of Space, Ning Yu's gaze flickered as he paced back and forth in the conference hall. From the Law of Space, Ning Yu understood that the Emperor Palace wasn't as simple as it looked on the surface. Most importantly, the Palace Master of the Emperor Palace, who framed Ning Yu's parents, didn't seem to be in the Emperor Palace, but had gone to a hidden location to cultivate. There were rumors in the Emperor Palace that if the Palace Master of the Emperor Palace came out of that place, His cultivation would break through to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm or even the quasi-saint realm. This discovery made Ningyu feel a great sense of danger. At this moment, Ningyu knew that his cultivation at the 9th grade mortal sovereign realm was far from enough. Not to mention seeking revenge from the palace master of the Emperor Palace, he couldn't even find the 9 cultivators that besieged him in his previous life. Chapter 1568. Chapter 1568. Chapter 1568. A long wait. I have to raise my cultivation to the Earth's supreme realm as soon as possible. With a grave expression, Ningyu decided to raise his cultivation to the Earth's sovereign realm before attacking the Jin family of the Qin Empire. Although the cultivation of a 9th grade human sovereign wasn't considered low among the younger generations, it could even be considered high. However, the enemies he was about to face were all incomparably powerful. Not to mention a 9th grade human sovereign, even if his cultivation was raised to a 9th grade Earth sovereign, he wouldn't be that powerful. Any other discoveries? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said to the Law of Space, I want to know everything about the Emperor Divine Palace. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Law of Space briefly pondered before saying, There's a secret stronghold of the Emperor Palace near the Flower Palace. It's said that the Emperor Palace would send a 9th grade Earth sovereign there every once in a while. Secret stronghold? Do they have to send 9th grade Earth sovereigns there every once in a while? Ningyu frowned. He had a feeling that things were not as simple as they seemed. The area around the Flower Palace was the territory of the Flower Palace, so it was definitely extraordinary for the Emperor Palace to take the risk of being discovered and establish a secret base here. Perhaps there was some unspeakable secret in it. That's right. That stronghold seems to be in the Moling Mountains. The Law of Space nodded. I heard this news from a 9th grade Earth sovereign by chance. At that time, that 9th grade Earth sovereign was talking to another cultivator, so I used a spatial secret technique to eavesdrop on their conversation. Moling Mountain Range. Upon hearing this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. From Grandmaster Zhao, Ningyu learned some information about the Moling Mountain Range. A devil spirit realm expert was imprisoned in the depths of the Moling Mountain Range. Back then, Grandmaster Zhao was forced by the square-faced and square-faced martial artists to go to the Moling Mountain Range. They wanted him to break the array formation in the depths of the Moling Mountain Range and rescue the devil spirit realm powerhouse. Who would have thought that they would run into the Moling Mountain Range's own demonic beasts, the single-horned demonic beast and the barbed demonic beast. Otherwise, the devil spirit realm expert trapped in the depths of the Moling Mountain Range would have already been rescued. The Moling Mountain Range is not an easy place to go. Ningyu was not a hothead. Even though he had built the Supreme Hall and there were many experts inside, he was still unable to move. However, relying on these experts, they probably wouldn't even be able to enter the depths of the Moling Mountain Range. The single-horned demonic beast and barb-hooked demonic beast were not easy to deal with. If they were to be angered this time, they would definitely have to bear the consequences. We have to think about it at length. Ningyu decided to wait for Xie to return first. If he could brew a medicinal liquid that could extend Xie's lifespan, he could bring Xie along with him to the Moling Mountain Range. By the way, I seem to have heard that the stronghold of the Emperor Divine Palace in the Moling Mountains is a primordial crystal mine, and it's a sacred-grade primordial crystal mine, the Law of Space continued after thinking for a while. I can't believe it. Ningyu's eyes widened at the mention of spatial laws, and he cursed. Saint-grade origin crystal mine. One had to know that in the Sky Demon territory, there were not many forces that could take out Emperor-grade origin crystals. And Saint-grade origin crystals surpassed Emperor-grade origin crystals. According to Ningyu's speculation, even top forces like the Emperor Divine Palace and the 100 Flowers Palace might not be able to take out many Saint-grade origin crystals. Riches come with risk. I have to make a trip to the Moling Mountain Range. Ning Yu's expression became extremely solemn, extremely solemn. He urgently needed to break through to the Earth's supreme realm, and Saint-grade origin crystals were the best tonic. The Xingyang pills produced by that scoundrel tree sapling had already been produced and sold by itself, and Ning Yu couldn't even touch a strand of it. If he could obtain Saint-grade origin crystals, not only could he advance to the Earth's supreme realm, but he could also damage the foundation of the Emperor Divine Palace. It could be said that using the Saint-grade origin crystal mine in the Moling Mountain Range, the Emperor Divine Palace was very likely to become the most powerful sect in the Pill Formation mainland, or even the Sky Demon territory. Therefore, it was his duty to destroy the Saint-grade origin crystal mine. You can leave first. I'll look for you when I need you. Ning Yu waved his hand and gestured for Space Law to take a rest first. The matter of going to the Moling Mountain Range couldn't be rushed. Haste makes waste. He had to wait for Xie Zhe to come back and brew the life-prolonging medicine. Otherwise, he would only be cannon fodder in the Moling Mountain Range. He would probably be killed before he could even reach the depths of the Moling Mountain Range. Buzz. Space Law didn't talk nonsense with Ning Yu. His figure flickered, and he directly tore the void and disappeared. Space Law's current identity was Di Lingtian of the Emperor Divine Palace, so it wasn't suitable for him to stay in the giant shield city. According to Di Lingtian's memory, Space Law quietly left the giant shield city. He wanted to contact the surrounding warriors of the Emperor Divine Palace in advance and find out how many experts the Emperor Divine Palace had in the Moling Mountain Range. Of course, Space Law himself was only at the 5th grade Earth Supreme Realm, so the people he found would definitely be below the 5th grade Earth Supreme Realm. It would be easier to control warriors weaker than him, right? Space Law understood this principle. Swish. After Space Law left, Ning Yu placed his hands flat in front of his chest, and the 8th level of the spiritual transformation art circulated rapidly. At the same time, Ning Yu took out an Emperor-grade Yuan crystal and began to cultivate. Crack. The 8th level of the spiritual transformation art absorbed Yuan Qi at an extremely fast speed. A moment later, the Emperor-grade Yuan crystal was completely absorbed by Ning Yu. Ning Yu's sea of consciousness also loosened a little. Although it hadn't been long since Ning Yu's cultivation rose to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. But during this period of time, Ning Yu had experienced many battles and had already completely stabilized his cultivation. Now, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Crack, crack, crack. After consuming several Emperor-grade Yuan crystals, a muffled sound came from Ning Yu's sea of consciousness. Boom. Along with this muffled sound, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes, and a surge of aura soared into the sky. 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Sensing the changes in his sea of consciousness, Ning Yu frowned slightly, not particularly satisfied. Reaching the 9th grade Intermediate Human Supreme Realm only increased his cultivation by a little bit. And according to Ning Yu's observation, with his current state, he could definitely break through to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm, or even the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Devour. Ning Yu was not an indecisive person, and he would do it immediately. He took out a few more Emperor-grade Yuan crystals and began to use the spiritual transformation art to devour them. Crack, crack. As time passed, the Emperor-grade Yuan crystals were continuously devoured. About half an hour later, boom, another muffled sound rang out. Ning Yu's cultivation advanced from the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Still not enough. Ning Yu shook his head, took out a few more Emperor-grade Yuan crystals, and began to cultivate. Boom. An hour later, when the third muffled sound rang out from Ning Yu's sea of consciousness, Ning Yu's cultivation successfully advanced from the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Whoosh. After advancing to the 9th grade Earth Supreme Realm, Ning Yu did not continue to cultivate. The reason why Ningyu stopped cultivating was because it was unrealistic for him to advance to the Earth's supreme realm in a short period of time. Chapter 1569. Chapter 1569. Saint Grade Crystal Mine, come in. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu spoke to the people outside the conference hall. Creak. Xieze had been waiting outside the conference hall. After hearing Ningyu's words, Xieze gently pushed open the door and walked in. Peak Grade 9 Human Supreme. As soon as he walked into the conference hall, Xieze's heart skipped a beat. He clearly remembered that when he left Giant Shield City, Ningyu was only an early-stage Grade 9 Human Supreme. How long had it been, and Ningyu had already advanced to a peak Grade 9 Human Supreme. To advance from an early-stage Grade 9 Human Supreme to a peak Grade 9 Human Supreme in just a few hours, even the peerless geniuses of some super forces might not be able to do that. How did Ningyu do it? Xieze's shock was beyond words. Even his eyes were wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. Xieze stretched out his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. Have you found the herbs I asked you to find? How could Ningyu not know what Xieze was thinking? However, Ningyu knew what he had to do now. It was not to explain to Xieze how he could advance to a peak Grade 9 Human Supreme, but to help Xieze brew the medicinal liquid as soon as possible so that he could live for a few more months. Only then could he go deep into the Moling Mountains and find the Saint Grade Crystal Mine in Divine Emperor Palace. I found it. I found a total of 3 sets of herbs. Since Ningyu did not say, Xieze did not ask further. He took out a storage bag and threw it to Ningyu. But, after catching the storage bag, Ningyu released his perception and probed the medicinal ingredients inside. He said, 3 portions of medicinal ingredients. I can brew 3 portions of medicinal liquid. Each portion of medicinal liquid can extend your lifespan by 1 month. 3 portions of medicinal liquid can extend your lifespan by 3 months. What? Xieze was completely dumbfounded. He even had the urge to curse. A portion of the liquid could extend one's lifespan by a month. If he had known earlier, he would have definitely thought of all sorts of ways to get the members of the Flower Palace to move out in full strength to help him find medicinal ingredients. If he could find 70 to 80 sets of medicinal herbs, wouldn't it mean that he could extend his lifespan by 6 to 7 years? Thinking of this, Xieze was very annoyed. Extending your lifespan by 3 months is already the limit. Ningyu rolled his eyes. Then, he took out the cauldron of nothingness and threw it into the air. The nihility pill furnace was enough to decoct the medicinal liquid. There was no need for the heavenly fire pill furnace. After Ningyu threw the incorporeal cauldron into the air, he poured out a portion of medicinal ingredients from his storage pouch and threw them into the cauldron. Xieze, use your essence to turn into flames and burn the bottom of the nothingness pill furnace. I won't let you stop, so you can't. Ningyu pointed at the nihility pill furnace and said, when the medicinal liquid is almost finished, I will tell you. Understood. Although he was very puzzled, Xieze did not dare to disobey Ningyu. Putting aside the fact that Ningyu was controlling him, Ningyu could help him extend his lifespan, so he had to listen to Ningyu. Chi. In the next moment, Xieze's essence surged out and began to frantically burn the bottom of the nihility pill furnace. Due to the goo poison in Xieze's body, when he circulated his essence, his remaining 3 months of lifespan was also slowly decreasing. Fortunately, Xieze was not fighting an enemy. He was only using essence to burn the bottom of the nihility pill furnace. Otherwise, his lifespan would definitely decrease rapidly. While Xieze was using all his strength to burn the bottom of the nihility pill furnace, Ningyu was not idle. Ningyu took out the red demon sword. With a thought, he separated a portion of his soul force and slowly inserted it into the red demon sword. The red demon sword had said that there was an array in the depths of the red demon sword, and in front of the array was a stone tablet. On the stone tablet, the words, "Pill Obliteration," were carved. The red demon sword had taken Xie away to drip his blood on the stone tablet to prevent the array from being broken. In any case, it would still take some time to brew the medicinal liquid. Ningyu simply entered the red demon sword to check on the red demon sword's current condition. It's indeed a little different from before. As soon as he entered the red demon sword, Ningyu noticed the changes in the red demon sword. Although the original red demon sword was of a very high level, even reaching the pinnacle of the monarch level, it still lacked a certain aura. The current red demon sword gave Ningyu a very special feeling. This feeling was like the red demon sword was advancing towards the emperor level. An emperor-level flying sword was a flying sword that only pinnacle sky supremes or half-sages could control. Even if an ordinary martial artist was lucky enough to obtain an emperor-level flying sword, they would not be able to use it. Ningyu's soul power wandered around the red demon sword, trying to find the array and stone tablet that the red demon sword had mentioned. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Ningyu searched, he could not find the array. Moreover, his soul power was also trapped in a pitch-black area. Looking at the pitch-black surroundings, Ningyu frowned slightly and murmured, "Could something have happened to the red demon sword?" At this thought, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. The red demon sword was still within the red demon sword. If something happened to the red demon sword, the red demon sword would definitely suffer. Don't worry, the red demon sword is fine. It's advancing towards the emperor level. At this moment, the surrounding darkness suddenly disappeared. The red demon's sword slowly appeared in front of Ningyu. Seeing the red demon walking towards him, Ningyu's face lit up with joy. He hurriedly asked, "What's going on?" "I've set up a layer of defense within the red demon's sword to prevent any rascals from spying on it," explained the red demon sword. "Right, I heard from you that the red demon sword is advancing towards the emperor level. How long will it take before it can advance to the emperor level?" Ningyu's heart jolted and he hurriedly asked. Since the red demon sword was fine, then Ningyu's focus was naturally on when the red demon sword would advance to the emperor level. There was an intrinsic difference between an emperor level and an emperor level flying sword. Although Ningyu could not fully control the emperor level flying sword, Ningyu had the red demon sword as his sword spirit. With the red demon sword's help, Ningyu did not need to raise his cultivation to the pinnacle sky supreme realm to be able to control the red demon sword. This was his advantage. However, the red demon sword's next words made Ningyu feel like vomiting blood. The red demon sword stretched out a finger and said, 100 years. According to the current situation, the red demon sword should be able to advance to the emperor level in 100 years. Furthermore, the red demon sword paused for a moment, then turned around and pointed to the array in the distance. The one trapped in that formation is indeed a peerless powerhouse of the Pill Puppet clan. The reason why the red demon sword was able to advance to the emperor level after 100 years is because it is slowly devouring the energy of the Pill Puppet in the formation. Ningyu's face darkened when he heard the red demon sword's words. He was originally in high spirits, thinking that the red demon sword could advance to the emperor level and that his fighting strength would have a qualitative leap. Who would have thought that it would take 100 years? 100 years would probably be too late. Is there any way to make the red demon sword advance to the emperor level faster? Asked Ningyu after taking a deep breath. Chapter 1570. Spirituality, Sacred Grade Origin Crystals? Ningyu was slightly taken aback at first before he said in a deep voice, "If I provide you with a large number of Sacred Grade Origin Crystals, how long will it take for the red demon sword to advance to the Emperor Grade? If I have enough Sacred Grade Origin Crystals, I only need a few hours to advance the red demon sword to the Emperor Grade." The red demon's expression was solemn, and his words revealed great confidence. The red demon sword was very familiar with the situation of the red demon sword. The red demon sword could satisfy all conditions except for sacred-grade origin crystals. A large number of sacred-grade origin crystals. With enough sacred-grade origin crystals, advancing it to the Emperor grade in a few hours would not be difficult. Get ready first. I will find a way to find sacred-grade origin crystals for you. The red demon's confidence rekindled Ning Yu's hope. Whether it was to destroy the Emperor Divine Palace's stronghold in the Moling Mountain Range or to obtain a large number of sacred-grade origin crystals, Ning Yu would not shirk from this trip to the Moling Mountain Range. Bang! At this moment, the elixir cauldron emitted muffled bangs from Xie Zhe's powerful Yuan Qi flames. Swoosh! Ning Yu was not an indecisive person. His soul power surged and he directly withdrew from the red demon sword. Continue to increase the intensity of the Yuan Qi flames. I must burn all the medicinal herbs into liquid within 3 minutes. After coming out, Ning Yu's perception entered the elixir cauldron slightly, and then he said in a deep voice, "In these 3 minutes, I will do everything possible to brew the medicinal liquid for you. As for whether or not it will succeed, it will all depend on the temperature inside the elixir cauldron." Boom! Ning Yu's words exploded in Xie Zhe's mind. The key to successfully brewing the medicinal liquid turned out to be the temperature inside the elixir cauldron. However, Xie Zhe was indeed the patriarch of the 100 Flowers Palace. He had been through many battles and quickly reacted. The Yuan Qi in his body poured out, and Xie Zhe used his Yuan Qi to burn the bottom of the elixir cauldron without holding back. Qi. As time passed, the temperature inside the elixir cauldron rose at a terrifying speed. After his perception entered the elixir cauldron, Ning Yu sent a few strands of his soul power into the elixir cauldron. Perception and soul power. Ning Yu used the brewing method. He learned from the reincarnation pill Dao to carefully brew the medicinal liquid. Bang! 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 While Ning Yu was brewing the medicinal liquid, muffled banging sounds came from the nothingness pill furnace. Every time there was a muffled sound, Xie Zhe's mouth would twitch slightly. Whether or not the medicinal liquid could be successfully brewed was related to whether or not Xie Zhe could prolong his life. Therefore, every slight sound would cause Xie Zhe to be highly focused, afraid that the decoction of the medicinal liquid would fail. Rise! 3 minutes later, Ning Yu suddenly jumped up and slapped the furnace with his right hand. Bang! As Ning Yu slapped out, the lid of the cauldron suddenly opened and a drop of medicinal liquid the size of a fingernail flew out of the cauldron. Qi. After the medicinal liquid flew out, it did not stay where it was. Instead, it tore through the void, trying to escape through it. It seems like this drop of medicinal liquid really has a spiritual nature. Looking at the medicinal liquid that tore through the void, Ning Yu frowned slightly and his expression turned solemn. According to the records of the reincarnation pill Dao, medicinal liquids that could prolong one's life could give birth to a spiritual nature. Originally, Ning Yu thought that the medicinal liquid he brewed would not be able to give birth to a spiritual nature. Now, it seemed like he was indeed a little careless. Ordinary medicinal liquids could extend one's life by a month. However, a medicinal liquid that gave birth to a spiritual nature could extend one's life by 4 months. A difference of 4 times. However, the difficulty of capturing a medicinal liquid that gave birth to a spiritual nature was also 4 times harder than capturing ordinary medicinal liquids. Where do you think you are going? Since the medicinal liquid was brewed by Ning Yu naturally would not let it escape. With a flash, Ning Yu dashed out and gathered the essence qi in his body on his wrist. He grabbed the medicinal liquid fiercely. Although the medicinal liquid gave birth to a spiritual nature, it was ultimately just a spiritual nature. It did not have a spiritual consciousness. As long as it did not have a spiritual consciousness, there was no way to escape Ning Yu's grasp. His palm reached deep into the void. Before long, Ning Yu grabbed the medicinal liquid in his hand. Not bad. Looking at the medicinal liquid in his hand, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. A drop of medicinal liquid with a spiritual nature could extend Xie Zhe's life by 4 months. If he brewed 3 drops, wouldn't he be able to extend Xie Zhe's life by a year? The longer Xie Zhe's life was, the safer it would be for him to enter the Moling Mountain range this time. Continue brewing the medicinal liquid. After putting away the first drop of medicinal liquid with a spiritual nature, Ningyu did not idle around. Instead, he instructed Xie Zhe to start brewing the second drop of medicinal liquid. Understood. The success of the first drop of medicinal liquid gave Xie Zhe a lot of confidence. He followed the previous method and started to heat the bottom of the incorporeal pill furnace. This time, Xie Zhe worked exceptionally hard. With the same actions, Ningyu carefully brewed the second drop of medicinal liquid, wanting to brew a medicinal liquid with a spiritual nature. Bang! Not long after, Ningyu's hand patted the pill furnace. The second drop of medicinal liquid flew out. Ningyu reacted quickly and firmly grabbed the second drop of medicinal liquid in his hand. Feeling the aura emitted by the second drop of medicinal liquid, Ningyu frowned slightly and gently shook his head. Unfortunately, the second drop of medicinal liquid did not give birth to a spiritual nature. A medicinal liquid that did not give birth to a spiritual nature could only extend Xie Zhe's life by a month. Failed. Seeing Ningyu shake his head, Xie Zhe's heart thumped. He had gone through untold hardships and even burned his life. If the second drop of medicinal liquid was declared a failure, it would be a huge blow to him. I didn't fail, I'm just a little dissatisfied. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Xie Zhe did not need to worry. Subsequently, Ningyu said again, continue brewing the third drop of medicinal liquid. Yes. Xie Zhe swung his hands, and the energy in his body gushed out along his palms, starting to heat the bottom of the incorporeal pill furnace. Ningyu threw all of the remaining medicinal herbs into the pill furnace and carefully started brewing. Even though it was the third time brewing the medicinal liquid, Ningyu still did not dare to be negligent. Brewing this kind of medicinal liquid that could extend one's life, the slightest carelessness would result in failure. Ningyu did not want to fail. After all, the main combat power to enter the Moling Mountain range and seize the sacred grade essence crystal mine was Xie Zhe. Rise. Roughly a few minutes later, a cold glint shot out of Ningyu's eyes, then his right hand slapped the pill furnace fiercely. Whoosh! In a split second, a drop of medicinal liquid sprang out of the pill furnace. Ningyu planted both feet on the ground and caught the third drop of medicinal liquid steadily. It didn't give birth to a spiritual nature again. Sensing the situation inside the third drop of medicinal liquid, Ningyu was slightly disappointed. 3 drops of medicinal liquid, only the first drop gave birth to a spiritual nature. The remaining 2 drops did not. That was to say, 3 drops of medicinal liquid could extend Xie Zhe's life by 6 months. 6 months of lifespan was not long, but it was not short either. As long as he did not encounter a peak sky supreme expert in the Moling Mountain range, relying on Xie Zhe's 9 months of lifespan, he could put up a good fight. Swallow these 3 drops of medicinal liquid. They can extend your life by 6 months. Chapter 1571. Chapter 1571. Chapter 1571 Half-Saint? 6 months of lifespan? Xie Zhe's face was full of shock as he caught the 3 drops of liquid. What was going on? Xie Zhe clearly remembered that Ningyu had said that each drop could only extend his lifespan by 1 month. Logically speaking, 3 drops could only extend one's lifespan by 3 months. Why did Ningyu say that it could extend his lifespan by 6 months? Do you want it or not? Ningyu stared at Xie Zhe and said, if you don't want it, I can give it to someone else. Swoosh. Hearing Ningyu's words, Xie Zhe did not say a word and directly threw the 3 drops of liquid into his mouth. Buzz. As soon as the 3 drops of liquid entered his mouth, They quickly flowed through Xieze's body and began to circulate in his body. The medicinal liquid took effect very quickly. 3 minutes later, Xieze felt that his rapidly depleting lifespan had stopped. In other words, his lifespan was slowly increasing. Who exactly is Ningyu? How could he even concoct such a heaven-defying medicinal liquid? Feeling the changes in his body, Xieze's pupils shrank and he could not help but shift his gaze to Ningyu. Originally, Xieze thought that Ningyu was a peerless genius from some big sect or family. But now, Xieze's thoughts had undergone a huge change. In Xieze's opinion, Ningyu was not a genius from some big sect or family, but an old monster. Only an old monster could be so monstrous. No, I have to quickly refine the medicinal liquid. Taking a deep breath, Xieze threw away everything in his mind and focused on refining the medicinal liquid. Xieze was very clear that only by refining all 3 drops of liquid could he extend his lifespan by 6 months. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. In the conference hall, Xieze was refining the medicinal liquid while Ningyu watched from the side. To be honest, even Ningyu himself did not know how effective the medicinal liquid was. Although Ningyu said that the medicinal solution was very effective, he himself was not very sure. Ningyu wanted to confirm if the 3 drops could extend Xieze's lifespan by 6 months. If the 3 drops of medicinal liquid could really extend Xieze's lifespan by 6 months, then the medicinal liquid he brewed in the future could definitely be sold for a good price in a big auction house. Drip, drip. Time continued to pass. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. In this half an hour, Ningyu's gaze was always on Xieze, not moving away for even a moment. Bang! After waiting for half an hour, Xieze's aura finally underwent a huge change. A terrifying aura surged out of Xieze's body and soared into the sky with a dull thud. Pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign. Ningyu could sense that Xieze was a peak sky supreme. Unfortunately, due to the effects of the parasite poison in his body, Xieze's peak sky supreme aura disappeared in a flash and quickly returned to normal. Feeling the changes in his body, Xieze took a deep breath and said to Ningyu, "Thank you." Although his life was temporarily in Ningyu's hands, Xieze was grateful to Ningyu from the bottom of his heart. At the very least, Ningyu had given him 6 months of lifespan. Moreover, Ningyu had given him hope. At this moment, Xieze even thought that Ningyu could completely cure the parasite poison in his body. "Now, I have something for you to do." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Call your old friends to Giant Shield City. I need their help." "You want to see my old friends?" Xieze's mouth opened slightly. "The weakest of my old friends is a late-stage Sky Supreme, and there are even some heaven-defying old monsters at the half-saint level. Furthermore, they all have injuries and strange temperament. Are you sure there's nothing wrong with them?" Ningyu shrugged and said, "It's not a problem to have a high cultivation and a strange temper. You just need to tell them that I can heal their injuries." "You want to cure their injuries?" Xieze seemed to have heard something extremely shocking. His eyes widened as he said in surprise, "My old friend's injuries are all more serious than mine. Some have broken legs, some are blind, and there are even some who only have a yuan shin left. You, don't give me that empty talk." Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "What you need to do is to invite all your old friends to come to me." This, Xieze hesitated. Actually, Xieze had his own difficulties. It wasn't that he didn't want to invite his old friends over, but the price to do so was too high. His old friends were all injured, and every time they went out, they would consume a lot of their vitality. They wouldn't go out easily. This was the motto of his old friends. Therefore, his old friends wouldn't come out without absolute benefits. "Speak," Ningyu said when he saw Xieze's hesitation. "If you can provide everyone with a drop of life-prolonging medicinal liquid, I can invite a few old friends over." Xieze gritted his teeth. "No problem. I need you to find them as soon as possible." As soon as possible, Ningyu said in a deep voice. Think about it. When will the fastest old friends arrive? Ningyu would soon go to the Moling mountain range to destroy the sacred grade crystal mine of the Divine Emperor Palace. Therefore, it would be great if he could have help. As for Xie Zhe's old friends, not only did they have high cultivation, but they also had various injuries. Ningyu might not be able to help much, but he had a unique understanding of how to treat people. After all, there were many records about this in the reincarnation pill Dao. Ningyu was very confident in this aspect. I have an old friend in the Qin Empire. His situation is similar to mine, but slightly better because he still has about 3 years to live. Xie Zhe said, if you can provide 3 portions of medicinal liquid, no, 2 portions of medicinal liquid, I can invite him over. The time limit is 3 hours. No problem. Prepare the medicinal ingredients for me. I'll start decocting the medicinal liquid now. Ningyu nodded and said, I want to see your old friend in 3 hours. Okay, I'll go now. Xie Zhe didn't dare to neglect Ningyu's instructions. He moved his feet and immediately rushed out of the conference hall. Wait, what's the cultivation of your old friend? However, Ningyu's words rang in Xie Zhe's ears as soon as he arrived at the main entrance of the conference hall. Ningyu's words made Xie Zhe slightly stunned. Shortly after, he said, at his peak, he had the cultivation of a half-step saint. However, due to some reasons, his cultivation dropped to the pinnacle sky supreme. Recently, he was affected by something and only has 3 years left to live. Half-step saint, pinnacle sky supreme. 3 years. Ningyu murmured. Through Xie Zhe's description, Ningyu had a rough idea of the situation of his old friend. At his peak, he had the cultivation of a half-step saint. However, due to his injuries, his cultivation dropped to the pinnacle sky supreme. Chapter 1572. Chapter 1572. Chapter 1572. Wait, go ahead. I'm looking forward to meeting your old friend. Ningyu waved his hand at Xie Zhe and said, also, help me prepare a few more sets of ingredients. I will start brewing the medicinal liquid now. Understood. Xie Zhe nodded and left the meeting hall without looking back. To Xie Zhe, whether or not he could extend his lifespan and expel the goo poison from his body depended on Ningyu. Therefore, Xie Zhe did not dare to neglect Ningyu's instructions. Xie Zhe knew what to do next. 2 things. The first was to hand over the list of medicinal herbs that Ningyu had given him to Fairy Yun Shi. He wanted Fairy Yun Shi to find as many medicinal herbs as she could find. Second, Xie Zhe had to personally head to the Thousand-Leaf Empire to find that old friend of his. Xie Zhe did not feel at ease letting others go to the Qin Empire to invite old friends. Xie Zhe knew that his old friend was suspicious and had a strange temper. If anyone else were to go, they might not even be able to see his old friend. Whoosh! Xie Zhe did not leave through the main gate of Giant Shield City. Instead, he left quietly through the underground. It could be said that no one in the huge Giant Shield City knew that Xie Zhe had left. Even Ningyu thought that Xie Zhe had used a secret technique to contact an old friend. The sacred grade primordial crystal mine that the Emperor Palace is so careful of must be a huge mine. In the conference hall, Ningyu's eyes were burning with passion. Xie Zhe was already under his control, and he had 9 months of lifespan. He could temporarily unleash the strength of a peak sky supreme. If he could convince Xie Zhe's old friend, then this trip to the Moling mountain range would have an additional guarantee. Forget it. I'll use this time to consolidate my cultivation. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu sat cross-legged on the ground and waved his hands to consolidate his cultivation. Ningyu had already advanced to the peak 9th grade human supreme. As long as he had the Xingyang pills, Ningyu had a high chance of advancing to the Earth supremacy realm. Of course, the prerequisite was that Ningyu had to completely stabilize his cultivation and not be impetuous. If one's cultivation rose too quickly in a short period of time, it would be easy for one to go berserk. In order to raise his cultivation to the Earth Sovereign Realm in the Saint Grade Origin Crystal Vein, Ningyu could only focus on consolidating his cultivation. Drip, drip, time flew by. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. When the second hour arrived, the main door of the conference hall was slowly pushed open. Creak. With a soft creaking sound, Fairy Yun she walked in with large strides. These are the herbs you wanted. After entering the meeting hall, Fairy Yun she didn't waste her breath with Ningyu. With a flick of her wrist, she threw the storage bag to Ningyu. Pa! Catching the storage bag, Ningyu released his perception and probed it a little. Ningyu discovered that there were 3.5 sets of herbs in the storage bag. Go stand guard outside the conference hall. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for Fairy Yun she to open the conference hall. Originally, Ningyu wanted to let Fairy Yun she brew the medicinal liquid for him. But seeing Fairy Yun she's angry face, he immediately changed his mind. Fairy Yun she didn't know that Xie was already under his control, so it was understandable for her to have such an expression. Letting Fairy Yun she stay was not only bad, but it would also cause unnecessary trouble. Although Ningyu had Xie under his control, he didn't want too many people to know. The more people that knew, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Ningyu wasn't foolish enough to think that the 100 Flowers Palace only had Xie as their foundation. To be able to become a peak force in the Pill Formation mainland and even the Sky Fiend region, their foundation was definitely not small. For example, among those old monsters hidden in the Emptiness Secret Realm, there was definitely someone at the level of the 100 Flowers Palace's ancestor. Humph! Fairy Yun she snorted coldly and glared at Ningyu fiercely before leaving the conference hall. Bang! Her right hand conveniently closed the conference hall's door, giving off a crisp sound. If not for Xie's instructions, Fairy Yun she definitely wouldn't have stayed behind to watch the door for Ningyu. After a period of time, Old Man Heavenly Secrets will come to Giant Shield City. I want to see just how you bewitch the ancestor. Outside the conference hall, Fairy Yunshi's eyes shot out a hint of cold light as she said coldly. In Fairy Yunshi's view, Xie was bewitched by Ningyu. As long as Old Man Heavenly Secrets came, he could definitely make Xie repent. The ignorant are fearless. Inside the hall, Ningyu rolled his eyes, then threw the nothingness pill furnace into the air, and directly started brewing the medicinal liquid. The crux of whether or not he could convince Xie's old friend was the medicinal liquid. If Ningyu could brew out 2 drops of medicinal liquid with spirituality, he could definitely convince Xie's old friend to let him enter the Moling Mountain range together with him. Ningyu discarded all distracting thoughts and started brewing the medicinal liquid. Because he wanted to brew a medicinal liquid with spirituality, compared to the previous time, Ningyu's speed of brewing the medicinal liquid was clearly much slower. After a full hour, Ningyu only managed to brew out the first drop of medicinal liquid. Holy **T. Looking at the first drop of medicinal liquid in his palm, Ningyu could not help but swear. Medicinal liquid with spirituality was extremely difficult to brew. Even though Ningyu spent an hour to brew it, it was still declared a failure and he did not manage to brew out a medicinal liquid with spirituality. I don't believe it. Ningyu was extremely serious when doing things. In the second hour, Ningyu was still brewing the medicinal liquid carefully. Swish. When the third hour arrived, Ningyu slapped the pill furnace fiercely and the second drop of medicinal liquid shot out. Grabbing the second drop of medicinal liquid, Ningyu's eyes revealed an extremely pleasantly surprised look. Hard work pays off. The second drop of medicinal liquid was a medicinal liquid with spirituality. I'll strive for the third drop of medicinal liquid to also have spirituality. Ningyu kept the 2 drops of medicinal liquid into the jade bottle, and then started brewing the third drop. Buzz. When Ningyu was brewing the third drop of medicinal liquid, the void suddenly split open. Outside the meeting hall, the void suddenly split open, and 2 figures appeared beside Fairy Yunxi. Why are you here? One of the figures saw Fairy Yunxi standing outside the door and asked in puzzlement, Is Ningyu brewing medicinal liquid inside? Very clearly, this martial artist who spoke was none other than Xieze. And beside Xieze stood an old man. The old man stood on the spot as if he had merged into the void. There was not even a trace of essence chi fluctuation around the old man, looking no different from an ordinary person. Even Fairy Yunxi did not notice anything special about the old man. Although she had many doubts in her heart, Fairy Yunxi still answered honestly, Ningyu is brewing medicinal liquid inside. He asked me to take a look and said that no one can enter without his permission. Since you guys are here, I naturally have to open the door. As she spoke, Fairy Yunxi extended her right hand towards the door handle of the main hall. You mustn't. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.